Welcome, traveller of the waking world. You have found your way here to this quiet corner of existence, a sanctuary built of sound and silence. It is time to lay down the heavy burdens you have carried throughout the day. Let them slide from your shoulders, one by one, dropping away into the shadows where they can no longer touch you. The day is done. The noise of the world has retreated, leaving only the soft velvet embrace of the night. Here, in this space we share, there is no urgency. There are no deadlines, no demands, no clocks ticking away the seconds. There is only the rhythm of your own breath and the sound of my voice guiding you gently toward the shores of sleep. I invite you now to settle into your resting place. Feel the surface beneath you rising up to support your weight. It is solid, steady, and safe. Allow your body to sink into it, melting like warm wax. Pay attention to your eyes. Let the eyelids become heavy, so wonderfully heavy that keeping them open feels like a distant, impossible memory. Let them close. Behind your eyes, let the darkness expand, not as an emptiness, but as a canvas, a deep, infinite comfort that wraps around your mind like a soft blanket. Breathe in slowly, filling your lungs with the cool, calm air of the night, and breathe out, releasing the last of the tension held in your jaw, your neck, your hands. We're going to embark on a journey tonight, not outward into the frantic energy of the stars, but inward, toward home. We're going to explore the cradle that holds us all, the ancient spinning jewel that is our Earth. But we will not look at it with the eyes of a scientist or a cartographer. We will look at it with the eyes of a dreamer. We will drift through its wonders, floating on a river of knowledge that is as soothing as a lullaby. Let your imagination unspool. Let your mind detach from the room you're in and allow yourself to float upward, weightless, suspended in the gentle ether of your own tranquility. You're safe, you're warm, you're ready to dream. Imagine, if you will, that you're drifting in the silent velvet void of space looking back at our home. From this vantage point, enveloped in the quietest peace you have ever known, you see the Earth not merely as a planet, but as a singular glowing marble suspended in nothingness. It is the only burst of colour in an infinite sea of black. Visualise the shape of it. While we often think of it as a perfect sphere, a flawless ball, the reality is more human, more unique. The Earth is ever so slightly imperfect, a shape known as a geoid. It bulges gently at the equator, as if relaxed, settled into its own middle age, widened by the eons of its spinning dance. Picture this vast blue shape, glowing with the reflected light of the sun. It is a masterpiece of texture. It is not smooth like a polished stone, but intricate and rugged. If you could run a giant ethereal hand over its surface, you would feel the wrinkles of the mountain ranges, the smooth, cool depressions of the ocean basins, and the soft, tufted texture of the great forests. It is a shape defined by gravity and rotation, a balance struck over billions of years. This slight squatness, this gentle imperfection, makes it real. It makes it a home. It hangs there in the silence, a fragile blue gem, turning endlessly, holding everything you have ever loved, every memory you have ever made safely on its curved surface. As you watch it float, you feel a profound sense of connection to that shape. It is the vessel of life, a lonely, beautiful wanderer in the dark, and yet looking at it, you do not feel alone. You feel held. As you continue to gaze at this suspended jewel, your mind drifts back through the corridors of time, rewinding the clock not by hours or days, but by eons. The Earth feels timeless to us, a permanent fixture beneath our feet, but it has a birthday. It has a beginning. Allow your mind to travel back 4.5 billion years. It is a number so large it loses its sharp edges and becomes a feeling of ancient, heavy endurance. Before there was a blue marble, there was only a swirling cloud of gas and dust, a nebula floating in the cosmos. It was a chaotic, glowing nursery of stars. Visualize the slow, majestic coalescence of this dust. grain by grain, rock by rock, the Earth was born from the debris of ancient stars that had lived and died long before. We are quite literally standing on stardust. The iron in the soil, the carbon in the rocks, the very atoms that make up the ground you rest upon. It was all forged in the hearts of distant suns. Think of the patience required for such a creation. Gravity, the great sculptor, took its time, pulling these particles together, compressing them, heating them, until a planet was formed. It was a violent birth, full of fire and collisions, but from that chaos emerged the stability we know today. Feel the weight of that history. When you touch the ground, you are touching a history that stretches back to the very dawn of the solar system. The Earth has seen the sun ignite, it has seen the other planets form, it has endured bombardments and freezing ice ages, and through it all, it has survived. It has waited for you. This ancient heritage brings a deep sense of grounding. You're not merely living on a rock, you are resting on a legacy of cosmic endurance, a survivor of 4 billion years of silence and fire, now cooled and calmed into a paradise for life. And though this ancient sphere seems still and solid beneath you as you lie in your bed, it is engaged in a constant rhythmic motion. From your place of tranquility, imagine the great spin of the world. It is a motion so smooth, so perfectly balanced, that you cannot feel it. The Earth rotates on its axis at a speed of nearly 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. It is a massive planetary momentum, a spinning top that never wobbles, never falls. Yet, nature has designed this motion to be completely imperceptible to your senses. You're shielded from the speed, protected by the sheer scale of the planet. Visualize the line that divides the day from the night, the Terminator line. It is a soft, blurred band of twilight that sweeps across the globe continuously. As the Earth spins, it carries continents from the darkness into the light and back again into the darkness. It is the heartbeat of the planet. Inhale, and the sun rises over the Atlantic. Exhale, and it sets over the Pacific. This rotation creates the fundamental rhythm of our existence, the cycle of wakefulness and rest. Picture yourself standing on the edge of that transition. To your left, the world is bathed in the golden, warming light of the sun. To your right, the cities are twinkling on, glimmering like fallen constellations in the shadow of the night. The Earth does not rush this rotation. It takes exactly 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds to complete one turn. It is a clockwork precision that has not faltered for billions of years. This spinning motion is what gives us the cool breeze, the changing weather, and the very concept of time itself. It is a rocking motion, a cradle swinging endlessly in the void, lulling all its inhabitants into the gentle rhythm of days and nights, a cycle you're surrendering to right now as you drift deeper into relaxation. Surrounding this spinning sphere, wrapping it in a protective embrace, is the atmosphere. If you were to look at the Earth from the side against the black backdrop of space, you would see a thin, glowing blue halo hugging the horizon. This is our shield, our blanket, our breath. The atmosphere is not just empty air, it's a physical layer, a heavy, comforting quilt that keeps the warmth of the sun from escaping back into the cold void. It is incredibly thin compared to the size of the Earth, like the skin on an apple. Yet within this delicate layer, all the weather, all the clouds, and all the skies you have ever known exist. Imagine the colour of the sky, that deep, endless azure that calms the soul. This blue is a gift of the atmosphere, a phenomenon known as Rayleigh scattering. As the sunlight strikes the gases in our air, the nitrogen and the oxygen, the light is scattered in all directions. The shorter blue waves scatter more than the rest, painting the dome above us in that signature, soothing hue. It is as if the planet has chosen a favourite colour to drape itself in. Visualise yourself floating upward through these layers. First, the troposphere, where the clouds drift like cotton ships. Then higher, into the stratosphere, where the air is thin and calm. And higher still, to the mesosphere and thermosphere, until the blue fades into the indigo of space. This blanket does more than paint the sky. It protects us from the harsh radiation of the cosmos and burns up the meteors that try to strike the surface, turning them into harmless shooting stars. It is a vigilant guardian, invisible and weightless, pressing gently against your skin with the pressure of a hug, ensuring that life can thrive in the vacuum of space. Drifting further out beyond the physical air, there exists another invisible shield, one of energy and magnetism. Deep inside the Earth, a dynamo is spinning, generating a vast magnetic field that stretches far out into space, creating a teardrop-shaped bubble around our world. You cannot see it with your eyes, but it is there, constant and unwavering. Imagine this field as a series of great arcing lines of silver light, springing from the South Pole, curving high over the planet and diving back in at the North Pole. It is a cage of energy that deflects the solar wind, the stream of charged particles blasting from the sun. When these solar winds strike our magnetic shield, they are guided toward the poles, creating one of nature's most hypnotic spectacles, the auroras. Visualize the northern lights, the aurora borealis. Picture curtains of emerald green, violet and crimson waving slowly in the dark polar sky. They ripple and fold like silk in a breeze, a silent, celestial dance. This is the visible sign of the Earth protecting you. It is the clash of cosmic energy and planetary defense turned into art. Imagine lying on a snowbank in the high north, wrapped in warmth, watching this silent symphony above. The lights pulse and fade, weaving patterns that have inspired legends for thousands of years. It is a reminder that the Earth is alive with energy, that it is an active participant in the solar system, constantly engaging with the sun. This magnetic field is also what guides the compass needle, showing travellers the way home, and it guides the migratory birds on their long journeys. It is a silent force of direction and protection, a comforting thought that even the invisible forces of the planet are aligned to keep you safe. Now, let your mind's eye descend from the upper atmosphere, down through the clouds, until you see the defining feature of our world: water, a vast, shimmering expanse of blue. The Earth is the only known planet in the universe with liquid water on its surface, and it covers 71% of the globe. From space, the continents look like islands drifting in a massive single ocean. Picture the Pacific Ocean, so wide that it covers almost half the planet. It is a realm of endless blue, rolling waves and deep, quiet mystery. Think of the texture of the ocean. The surface is a rhythmic, undulating mirror, reflecting the sun and the moon. But beneath the waves, there is a world of eternal calm. Imagine sinking slowly into those depths. The light filters down, turning from bright turquoise to deep indigo, and finally to a peaceful, inky black. Here, in the deep ocean, the water is cool and heavy. It presses in on all sides, a sensation of being completely held. The oceans are the climate regulators of the Earth, absorbing the sun's heat and distributing it around the globe through massive, slow-moving currents. Think of the Gulf Stream, a river of warm water flowing through the cold Atlantic, like a heated vein in the body of the world. These currents move with a slow, deliberate power, circulating nutrients and warmth, stabilizing the temperatures so that life can flourish. The sound of the ocean, the rhythmic crashing of waves on the shore, is the most primal sound on Earth. It mimics the rhythm of the breath, the rhythm of the heartbeat. It is a sound that signals safety, a lullaby that has been played for millions of years, rocking the planet into a state of liquid equilibrium. As you visualize the oceans, you notice they are not still. They rise and fall, breathing in and out along the shorelines. This is the work of our constant companion, the moon. The Earth is not alone in its journey. It is accompanied by a silver satellite, locked in a gravitational embrace. The moon pulls at the Earth, and the Earth pulls back. This invisible tug of war creates the tides. Imagine standing on a beach at twilight. The water is low, revealing damp sand and smooth stones. As the hours pass and the moon climbs higher in the sky, the water begins to creep forward. It is not a rush, but a slow, inevitable advance. The ocean swells, drawn by the silent power of the moon. This is the high tide. It is a reminder of the celestial connection between our world and the cosmos. The water in the ocean, and even the water in your own body, responds to the movement of that distant, cratered rock. The moon also stabilizes the Earth's wobble. Without the moon, the Earth would tilt erratically on its axis, causing chaotic climate shifts. But the moon acts as an anchor, a steadying hand on the shoulder of the Earth, keeping our seasons regular and our climate livable. Visualize a silver thread connecting the center of the Earth to the center of the moon, a bond of gravity that holds them together in a cosmic waltz. They spin around a common center, a dance that has slowed over billions of years, gradually lengthening our days. It is a relationship of balance, of give and take, a silent partnership played out in the rising and falling of the seas. But it is not just the water that moves. The very ground beneath your feet, the solid rock that feels so permanent, is also in motion. We drift now to the concept of the living crust. The Earth's surface is cracked like a giant puzzle, divided into massive tectonic plates that float on the hot semi-fluid mantle below. These plates, carrying the continents of Africa, America, Asia, and the floors of the oceans, are drifting. They move at the speed that fingernails grow, a pace so slow it requires centuries to measure, yet over millions of years, it reshapes the world. Visualize the planet millions of years ago, when all the land was joined in one supercontinent, Pangaea, a vast single island in a single ocean. Over time, the land tore apart, drifting slowly across the globe to form the world we know today. This movement is the Earth remodeling itself. Where plates crash together, they crumple upwards to form the majestic peaks of the Himalayas or the Andes. Where they pull apart, they create new crust, fresh rock born from the fire below. It is a slow, heavy dance of stone. Imagine the immense patience of a mountain rising. It takes millions of years for the rock to be pushed up into the sky, to catch the snow, to touch the clouds. This geological pace is the true time of the Earth. It is a reminder that there is no need to rush. Great things, beautiful things, stable things take time to build. The ground you rest on is part of this slow, majestic journey, a raft of stone floating on a deep, hot sea of rock, carrying you gently through the ages. And what lies beneath these drifting plates? Let your mind burrow deep, past the soil, past the bedrock, past the crust, diving thousands of miles down into the center of the world. Here, in the absolute center, lies the core. It is the heart of the planet. It is a ball of solid iron and nickel, under pressure so immense that it remains solid despite being as hot as the surface of the sun. This inner core is surrounded by an outer core of molten, flowing metal. Visualize this churning, glowing ocean of iron deep beneath you. It is a hidden fire, a secret warmth that the Earth keeps tucked away in its chest. This heat is the engine that drives the tectonic plates. It is the source of the magnetic field. It is the battery of the planet. There is something profoundly comforting about this inner warmth. The Earth is not a cold, dead rock. It is warm from the inside out. Even on the coldest winter night, deep down, the Earth is vibrant with heat. It is a planetary hearth, keeping the world alive from within. Picture this core as a glowing ember, pulsating with energy, a heavy, grounding center of gravity that holds everything together. It anchors the atmosphere, it holds the moon in its orbit, and it keeps your feet firmly planted on the ground. It is the dense, silent anchor of our existence, burning quietly in the dark, billion-year-long night of the planet's interior. Finally, we rise from the depths, up through the rock and the water, to the surface again, where the heat and the water and the air combine to create the biosphere. The Earth is the only place we know of where life exists. It is a green planet. Visualize the vast emerald canopies of the rainforests, the endless taiga of pine trees in the north, the rolling grasslands of the savannas. This greenery is the Earth breathing. The plants and the trees are engaged in a constant, silent exchange with the atmosphere. They inhale what we exhale, they exhale what we inhale. It is a perfect symbiotic circle. Picture a single leaf turning its face to the sun, absorbing the light and transforming it into energy, releasing a tiny puff of pure oxygen. Now multiply that by trillions. The Earth is a living organism, a self-regulating system that maintains the balance necessary for life. Imagine the smell of a forest after the rain, the scent of pine, of damp earth, of life renewing itself. This is the scent of the biosphere. It is a layer of vibrancy that covers the continents like a moss. From space, you can see the seasons change as a wave of green sweeping north and south, a rhythmic breathing of the land. You are part of this system. You are not separate from the Earth. You are a piece of it, made of the same atoms, breathing the same air, drinking the same water. You are the Earth observing itself. And as you lie there, feeling the rise and fall of your own chest, you are in perfect synchronization with the respiration of the entire planet, a small, peaceful part of a vast, living, breathing whole. And as we rest within this living, breathing whole, let your mind drift from the emerald canopies of the land toward the vast, open expanse of the sea once more. For the breath of the world does not belong solely to the forest you can walk through. There is another forest, an invisible, floating forest, hidden within the upper layers of the sunlit ocean. These are the phytoplankton, microscopic jewels of life that drift in the trillions upon the waves. Picture them not as plants, but as tiny, intricate structures of glass and light, geometric masterpieces of silica turning slowly in the current. Though they are too small for your eyes to see without aid, together they weave a blanket of life that stretches from pole to pole. They are the true lungs of the Earth, quietly producing more than half of the oxygen you breathe. Every second breath you take, even now as you lie in the comfort of your bed, is a gift from these invisible drifters of the sea. Imagine them working tirelessly under the sun, absorbing the golden light and the carbon from the air, transforming it into the cool, fresh oxygen that sustains us all. It is a silent, global chemistry, a gift given freely by the ocean to the sky. At night, some of these tiny creatures glow with bioluminescence, turning the breaking waves into crashing crests of neon blue light. Visualize yourself standing on a dark shore, watching the water sparkle with this living stardust, a reminder that even in the deepest dark, life creates its own light, pulsating with a rhythm that matches the beating of your own heart. From the surface of the sea, where water meets air, we witness the beginning of a great and eternal journey, the water cycle. It is a journey that has no beginning and no end, a circle of transformation that purifies and replenishes the world. Imagine the warmth of the sun touching the face of the ocean, coaxing the water molecules to separate, to become light, to turn into invisible vapor. Feel the sensation of rising, weightless and free, lifting off the heavy surface of the sea and drifting upward into the sky. This is the Earth's way of cleansing itself. The salt is left behind, the impurities dropped, and only the pure, sweet essence of water ascends. High above, this vapor cools and clusters together to form clouds. Picture these clouds not just as white shapes, but as floating reservoirs, vast lakes suspended in the air. When they are heavy and full, they release their burden. Visualize the rain falling in slow motion. It is not a storm, but a gentle, nourishing shower. Watch a single drop as it plummets from the grey belly of a cloud, catching the light, falling for miles until it lands softly on a broad green leaf in a distant rainforest. The sound of rain, that steady rhythmic drumming on a roof or against a window, is one of the most hypnotic sounds known to humankind. It triggers a deep ancestral memory of safety, of being sheltered while the world outside is washed clean. Breathe in the scent that follows the rain, the smell known as petrichor. It is the earthy, musky perfume of dry soil drinking its fill, a chemical signal that life is being renewed, rising from the ground to greet your senses. As the temperature drops and we drift toward the poles of our planet, the water transforms again, hardening into a majestic stillness. We enter the realm of the cryosphere, the frozen world. Here, the water does not flow, it waits. Visualize the great glaciers, the rivers of ice that wind their way down mountain valleys. They are massive, shining serpents of white and blue, moving with a slowness that defies human perception. A glacier might move only a few inches a day, a pace of infinite patience. They are the keepers of time, pressing down with the weight of centuries. Look closely at the ice of a glacier. It is not merely white, it is a deep, glowing blue, a colour so pure it seems to hold a light of its own. This blue exists because the ice is so dense, so compressed by its own weight, that it squeezes out the red wavelengths of light, leaving only this ethereal azure. Trapped within this ice are tiny bubbles of ancient air, samples of the atmosphere from thousands of years ago, preserved like memories in amber. To stand before a glacier is to stand before a library of the Earth's history, frozen in suspended animation. It is a landscape of sculpture, where wind and cold have carved arches and spires that gleam under the pale polar sun. It feels clean here, sterile and sharp, a place where the chaos of the world is frozen into perfect crystalline order. And with this, ice comes a profound, enveloping silence. Snow is one of the few things in nature that has the power to mute the world. Imagine walking into a forest just as a heavy snow begins to fall. The flakes are large and soft, drifting down like feathers. As they accumulate on the branches of the pines and blanket the forest floor, the sounds of the world begin to fade. The sharp snap of a twig, the call of a bird, the rush of the wind, everything is dampened, softened, absorbed by the snow. This acoustic dampening happens because fresh snow is composed of a lattice of ice crystals, with tiny pockets of air trapped between them. It acts as a natural soundproofing foam, absorbing sound waves rather than reflecting them. The result is a hush that feels physical, a quiet so deep it feels like a heavy blanket wrapped around your mind. In this snowy sanctuary, the only sound is the sound of your own presence. It forces a kind of meditation, a turning inward. Visualize the world turning white, all the sharp edges and bright colours buried under a layer of pristine softness. It is a blank page, a fresh start, a visual and auditory rest for the soul where the noise of modern life simply cannot penetrate. From the cold, quiet white, we drift across the globe to a place of warmth and golden light. We find ourselves amidst the dunes of the great deserts. While we often think of deserts as empty, they are landscapes of incredible texture and movement. Picture the Sahara or the Namib, where the sand stretches out like a solidified ocean. The wind here is the sculptor, picking up grains of quartz and depositing them in gentle rolling curves. The dunes rise and fall like waves frozen in time, their crests sharp and defined against the deep indigo sky. There is a phenomenon here known as the singing sands. In certain deserts, when the sand slides down the face of a steep dune, it creates a low, humming vibration, a drone that resonates like a cello played by the earth itself. It is a soothing, low-frequency sound, a song of friction and gravity. The desert is a place of clarity. Without humidity to haze the air, the horizon seems infinite. At night, the desert cools rapidly, shedding its heat into the void. Lie back on the cooling sand and look up. Because there are no clouds and no city lights, the stars here are brighter than anywhere else on land. They hang low and heavy, a diamond dust ceiling that feels close enough to touch. The silence of the desert is different from the snow. It is a vast, open silence, a silence of space and distance, allowing your thoughts to expand, to drift out toward the edge of the universe without hitting a wall. Rising from the dry sands, the earth pushes upward, reaching for the heavens. We approach the concept of elevation, of the mountains that form the spine of the world. Visualize the Himalayas, the roof of the world. These peaks are not static monuments, they're growing. The collision of the tectonic plates we spoke of earlier is still happening, pushing Mount Everest and its sisters a fraction of an inch higher every year. It is a slow, geologic growth, a mountain inhaling, rising to meet the sky. Imagine yourself standing on one of these high summits. The air here is thin and crisp, purified by altitude. Below you, the clouds spread out like a white ocean, concealing the world below. You're above the weather, above the rain, standing in a realm of perpetual sunlight and wind. There is a sense of detachment here that is profoundly relaxing. The problems of the world below look small from this height, insignificant specks on a vast landscape. The mountains are symbols of permanence and ambition, yet they are also places of deep stillness. The only sound is the wind whistling through the crags. To be high up is to be closer to the quiet of space, suspended between the heavy earth and the weightless void, grounded on rock but touching the sky. But for every peak that scrapes the stratosphere, there is a depth that plunges into the abyss. We travel now from the highest point to the lowest, sliding down the continental slopes, past the coral reefs, into the midnight zone, and finally into the trenches. The Mariana Trench, a scar in the ocean floor, is the deepest place on Earth. It plunges nearly 7 miles down. If you were to place Everest in this trench, its peak would still be over a mile underwater. This is not a place of fear, but a place of ultimate holding. The pressure here is immense, a crushing weight of water that equates to an elephant standing on your thumb. But to the creatures that live here, this pressure is simply a hug. It is the way the world holds them. In this eternal darkness, where sunlight has never touched, life has found a way. Bioluminescent creatures drift like ghosts, carrying their own lanterns. It is a world of slow motion, of suspended organic snow falling from above to feed the depths. The water here is near freezing, preserved in a state of calm that is undisturbed by the storms raging 7 miles above. It is the womb of the planet, the deepest, darkest, quietest room in the house of the earth, a place of absolute solitude and liquid peace. Moving from the depths of the water to the depths of the rock, we find the hollow spaces hidden beneath the surface. The earth is honeycombed with caves, vast networks of tunnels and chambers carved by the patience of water. Imagine a single drop of rainwater, slightly acidic from the soil, seeping into a crack in the limestone. Over thousands of years, drop by drop, it dissolves the rock, opening up a cavern. This is the architecture of subtraction, space created by the gentle persistence of water. Step into this underground world. The air is cool and damp, and smells of wet stone and ancient minerals. It is a constant temperature here, unaffected by the seasons burning or freezing above. The silence is profound, broken only by the rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water falling from the ceiling into a dark pool below. This dripping is a clock, ticking away the aeons. It builds stalactites reaching down and stalagmites reaching up, growing toward each other until, after tens of thousands of years, they meet in a kiss of stone, forming a column. These are the cathedrals of the dark, filled with formations that look like frozen waterfalls and draperies of rock. To be in a cave is to be inside the earth itself, protected by miles of solid stone, hidden away in a secret pocket of existence where time moves at the speed of a falling drop. Deep within these rocky veins, and in pockets of heat and pressure throughout the crust, the earth is engaged in an act of artistic creation. It is forging crystals. In the darkness where no eye can see, atoms are aligning themselves into perfect repeating patterns. Think of a geode. On the outside it looks like a rough, unassuming potato of rock. But crack it open, and inside is a dazzling city of amethyst violet, or citrine gold, or clear quartz. This beauty is born from stress. It is the heat and the pressure that force the chaotic atoms into these orderly, beautiful lattices. It is a reminder that beauty often grows in the dark under pressure waiting to be discovered. Visualize a giant seam of selenite crystals buried deep underground. They are translucent beams, some as large as trees, glowing softly in the gloom. They have been growing there for 500,000 years, perfect and untouched. The Earth is a jeweler, constantly refining its materials, turning carbon into diamonds, silica into opal, creating hidden treasures not for display, but simply as an expression of the laws of nature. There is a sense of wonder in knowing that right now, beneath your feet, miles down, there are caverns filled with glimmering jewels that no human has ever seen, sparkling in the eternal night. Finally, we feel the heat rising again, the pulse of the planet's creation. We drift to the concept of the volcano. While often seen as destructive, volcanoes are the great architects of the Earth. They are the land makers. Visualize the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Millions of years ago, there was nothing but water. But deep below, a hot spot in the mantle burned through the crust, pouring out layer upon layer of molten rock. As the lava hit the cold ocean water, it hissed and steamed, cooling instantly into solid stone. This is how Hawaii was born, and how it is still being born today. Picture the slow, hypnotic flow of Pahoho lava, smooth, ropey rivers of fire that move with the viscosity of honey. As the outer skin cools to a silver black, the red fire continues to flow underneath, expanding the island inch by inch. This is the Earth turning itself inside out to create new ground. The soil that forms from this volcanic rock is some of the most fertile on the planet, rich in minerals brought up from the deep. Life flocks to these slopes. Lush jungles grow rapidly on the sleeping giants. The volcano is a symbol of the Earth's vitality, a reminder that our planet is not finished. It is still under construction, still painting with fire, still rising from the sea, creating new sanctuaries for life in the middle of the blue expanse. And as the lava cools and settles into new land, the heat that birthed it does not simply vanish. It lingers, seeping into the groundwater, creating pockets of warmth hidden amidst the cold rock. We drift now from the fiery creation of islands to the gentle, steaming sanctuaries known as hot springs. In these places, the Earth offers us a warm bath. Visualize a pool of water nestled in a high mountain valley, surrounded by snow. The air is frigid, sharp against the skin, but the water is heated by the magma deep below, rising to the surface as a gift of geothermal comfort. Watch the steam rising from the surface of the pool. It curls and dances in the cold air, white ribbons of mist that vanish into the sky. This is the Earth exhaling. Sink into this water in your mind. Feel the heat enveloping your limbs, penetrating the muscles, softening the tension. It is a contrast of sensations. The cool breeze on your face and the heavy mineral-rich warmth surrounding your body. These waters are painted with vibrant colours, brilliant azures, deep emeralds, and rusty ochres, created by heat-loving microorganisms that thrive in the edges of the springs. It is a natural watercolour painting, shifting and swirling with the steam, a reminder that the planet's fire can be gentle, that it can hold you in a warm embrace even in the midst of winter. From this interaction of water and heat, we turn our attention to the solid ground itself, and the slow, majestic transformation known as the rock cycle. We often perceive stone as permanent, the very definition of unmoving stability. But to the Earth, rock is fluid. It just moves at a pace too slow for us to see. Every grain of sand on a beach was once part of a mighty mountain. Every mountain is waiting to become sand. Visualize this eternal recycling. The rain and the wind gently erode the peaks, washing tiny particles down rivers to the sea, where they settle in layers of mud and silt. Over millions of years, the weight of the ocean presses these layers down, fusing them into sedimentary rock. Then, the shifting plates we spoke of earlier drag this rock deep underground, where heat and pressure cook it, transforming it into marble or slate, metamorphic rock. And finally, if it dives deep enough, it melts back into magma, only to rise again as new lava. Nothing is ever lost. The pebble you hold in your hand has been a mountain, a sea floor, and liquid fire, cycling through these forms for billions of years. It is a lesson in patience and renewal. The ground beneath you is not dead matter. It is a pause in a long, slow conversation the Earth is having with itself. A conversation about changing shape while remaining whole. Hidden within these layers of sedimentary rock caught between the pages of the Earth's history book lies the concept of the fossil. The Earth has a memory. It records the shapes of those who walked and swam before us, pressing them into stone to be kept safe for aeons. Visualize a spiral ammonite shell, turned to stone, embedded in a cliffside by the ocean. It lived millions of years ago, swimming in ancient warm seas, and now it is part of the geology. Trace the spiral with your mind's eye. It is a perfect geometric shape, a golden ratio preserved in mineral. These fossils connect us to the deep past. They remind us that life has flourished here in countless forms. Think of the forests of the Carboniferous era, vast swamps of giant ferns that are now the coal seams deep underground. When we see a fossil, we are looking at a photograph taken by the planet itself. It brings a sense of continuity, a feeling that life is a resilient, enduring chain. You are the current link in this chain, standing on the shoulders of giants, supported by the solidified history of all the life that came before. The Earth remembers everything, holding these memories in its rocky quiet, waiting for us to find them and understand our place in the lineage of time. Resting atop this ancient rock is a thin, miraculous skin that makes all current life possible: the soil. It is easy to overlook the ground as mere dirt, but soil is a living, breathing ecosystem of staggering complexity. In a single teaspoon of healthy soil, there are more living organisms than there are people on the entire planet. Visualize this dark, rich matter. It is a mixture of crushed rock, decaying leaves, air, water, and life. It is the bridge between the dead stone and the living plant. Threaded through this soil is a hidden network that rivals the complexity of our own brains, the mycelium. These are the fine, white threads of fungi stretching out for miles beneath the forest floor. They connect the roots of the trees, forming what is affectionately known as the wood wide web. Through this network, trees can communicate. They share nutrients. They send warnings of pests. The old trees feed the young saplings that grow in their shade. Imagine this silent, benevolent cooperation happening right beneath your feet. The earth is knit together by these threads, a web of support that ensures the forest acts not as individuals but as a community. Smell the rich, musky scent of damp earth. It is the smell of fertility, of potential, of the dark, quiet workshop where life is assembled from the dust. Rising from this living soil are the great sentinels of our world, the ancient forests. Let your mind wander into a grove of giant sequoias or coastal redwoods. These are the largest and oldest living things on Earth. Some of these trees were saplings when the Roman Empire was falling. They have stood silently through wars, migrations, and the shifting of civilizations. Visualize the bark of a redwood, thick, fibrous, and deeply furrowed, a reddish-brown armour against fire and time. Stand at the base of one of these giants and look up. The trunk shoots upward like a pillar of a cathedral, disappearing into the mist high above. You cannot see the top. There is a profound stillness in a grove of old-growth trees. They absorb sound. They filter the light into soft, dappled rays of green and gold. To touch the wood is to touch history. These trees are the lungs of the land, inhaling our exhaust and exhaling fresh, clean air. They are the definition of stability. They do not rush. They grow slowly, ring by ring, year by year, responding to the sun and the rain with a quiet consistency that calms the human spirit. Walking among them, you feel your own timeline slowing down, matching the deep, resonant rhythm of the sap rising in their veins. Water, too, makes its journey across the land, carving the path of the river. From the melting glaciers and the mountain springs, gravity pulls the water toward the sea. Visualize a river beginning as a small, bubbling brook, clear and cold, tumbling over smooth stones. It sings a song of cheerfulness, a high-pitched babbling that sounds like laughter. As it flows downwards, it is joined by other streams, growing wider, deeper, and slower. A great river, like the Amazon or the Nile, is a moving road. It meanders, curving back on itself in slow, serpentine loops. This meandering is the water seeking the path of least resistance, a lesson in flow. It does not fight the land, it works with it, bending and turning to find its way. Approaching the ocean, the river slows down even more, depositing the silt it has carried from the mountains to form a delta. Picture this fan-shaped expanse of green islands and winding channels. It is a place of incredible fertility, where the land reaches out into the sea like a hand. The river is the bloodstream of the continent, carrying nutrients and life, connecting the high peaks to the deep ocean in one continuous fluid motion. Listening to the sound of a river is listening to the sound of continuity, a reminder that everything is moving toward a greater destination. Sometimes the water does not flow to the sea, but rests in a hollow of the earth, creating a lake. If the ocean is the planet's heart, the lakes are its eyes. Visualize a perfectly still lake at dawn. The surface is a sheet of glass unblemished by wind. It reflects the sky above with perfect fidelity. The clouds, the rising sun, the silhouette of the trees at the water's edge. It is a world doubled. There is a unique peace to be found by a lake. Unlike the ocean, which is always moving with tides and waves, a lake can be absolutely motionless. It invites reflection, both literal and metaphorical. The water is contained, held safely by the shores. As the sun warms the air, a gentle mist rises from the surface, swirling like spirits over the water. This vapor is the lake breathing. Beneath the surface, the water is cool and dark, a sanctuary for fish that hover in the shadows. To sit by a lake is to sit by a mirror, watching the mood of the sky play out on the canvas of the water, a quiet observation of the days passing. In some arid corners of the world, the water evaporates entirely, leaving behind a landscape of surreal beauty, the salt flats. Picture the Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. It is a vast expanse of blinding white salt stretching to the horizon. It is perfectly flat, a geometric plane of hexagonal tiles formed by the drying salt. When it rains, just a thin layer of water sits atop the salt, turning the entire landscape into the world's largest mirror. Imagine walking there. It looks as though you are walking on the clouds. The sky is above you, and the sky is below you. The horizon disappears completely, and you are floating in a sphere of blue and white. It is a place of disorientation in the most beautiful way, where the boundaries between earth and heaven are erased. The silence here is crisp and dry. The crunch of salt crystals beneath your feet is the only sound. It is a landscape of purity, of white light and open space, cleansing the mind of clutter. It feels like an empty canvas, a place where you can be alone with the vastness of the planet, suspended in a dreamscape of light. Moving across these landscapes, invisible yet palpable, is the wind. The earth is wrapped in a constant circulation of air. The wind is the planet regulating its own temperature, moving heat from the equator toward the poles. Visualize the trade winds, the steady breezes that have guided sailors for millennia. They are reliable, constant flows of air that circle the globe. Close your eyes and imagine the sensation of a gentle breeze brushing against your cheek. It is the softest touch of nature. You cannot see the wind, but you can see its effects. The rippling of the tall grass, the dancing of the leaves, the white caps on the water. It is the invisible energy of the atmosphere in motion. The wind carries the seeds of plants to new homes. It carries the rain to thirsty lands. It carries the dust of the Sahara to fertilize the Amazon rainforest. It is the great connector, mixing the breath of the world. Listening to the wind sighing through the eaves or rustling through the trees is a white noise that lulls the mind, a natural hushed tone that whispers, "Rest now, the world is turning." And as the world turns, it leans. This brings us to the rhythm of the seasons. The Earth does not spin perfectly upright. It is tilted on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. This cosmic lean is the reason we have the shifting beauty of the year. It is a slow, rhythmic nodding toward and away from the sun. Visualize the cycle. First, the green explosion of spring, the waking up, the buds unfurling, the smell of wet soil and new life. Then, the golden warmth of summer, the long days where the sun lingers in the sky, the heavy heat that slows everything down. Then, the crisp transition of autumn. Picture the forest turning into a fire of red, orange, and yellow. It is the earth preparing for rest, shedding what it no longer needs. The leaves fall, enriching the soil, a surrender to the cycle, and finally the white silence of winter. The world draws inward, the sap goes down to the roots, the land sleeps under a blanket of snow. This cycle is the heartbeat of time. It ensures that nothing is permanent, that there is a time for growth and a time for rest. It gives us permission to rest as well. Just as the earth sleeps in winter, you too are allowed to hibernate, to withdraw, to recover, knowing that spring will always, inevitably, return. From the macrocosm of the seasons, we zoom in to the delicate miracle of the pollinator. The green world we visualized earlier relies on a tiny buzzing workforce. The relationship between the flower and the bee is one of the most ancient love stories on Earth. Visualize a meadow of wildflowers swaying gently in the summer breeze, lavender, poppy, clover. Drifting among them are the bees, furry and golden. This is a partnership of perfect design. The flower offers nectar, a sweet reward, and in return the bee carries the pollen, the dust of life, to the next flower. It is delicate, tactile exchange. Imagine the soft hum of a bumblebee. It is a drowsy, comforting sound, the sound of a lazy afternoon. These tiny creatures are responsible for the colour of the world. Without them, the vibrant blooms would vanish. They are the weavers of the biosphere, stitching the ecosystem together one flight at a time. Watching a bee land on a petal, seeing the flower bow slightly under its weight, is to witness the interconnectedness of all things, how the small sustains the large, how the flying insect sustains the rooted plant, a dance of mutual survival that has continued for millions of years. And sometimes, after the rain has fallen and the sun begins to peek through the retreating clouds, the atmosphere gifts us with a rainbow. This is the physics of light revealed. The sunlight, which appears white, is actually a bundle of all colours. When it passes through the raindrops suspended in the air, it is bent and refracted, split apart into its constituent spectrum. Visualize the great arch appearing against a dark, stormy sky. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. It is a bridge of light connecting the earth to the heavens. A rainbow is a fleeting thing. It exists only for a moment, and only from your specific perspective. If you move, the rainbow moves. It is a private show, a momentary alignment of sun, water, and eye. It signifies the calm after the storm, the return of the light. The colours are soft and luminous, not painted on a surface but hanging in the air itself. It is a reminder that even in the chaotic aftermath of a storm there is order, there is geometry, and there is unexpected beauty waiting to be revealed by the light. We descend now from the airy heights of the rainbow to the solid, shimmering world of sand. We often think of sand merely as the edge of the ocean, but look closer. Pick up a handful of dry sand in your imagination. Let it run through your fingers. It is soft, fluid, and warm. But if you were to look at those grains under a microscope, you would see a treasure trove. Each grain is a jewel. Some are fragments of polished quartz, clear as glass. Others are tiny bits of pink coral, or green olivine, or black volcanic glass. Some are even the microscopic shells of ancient sea creatures, star-shaped and spiral. A beach is a collection of millions of distinct tiny histories. The sand conforms to the shape of your body. It holds you. Walking barefoot on sand is a grounding experience, connecting you electrically to the earth. The sound of sand shifting, the soft shh as a wave recedes over it, is a natural exfoliation for the senses. It is the product of the ocean's eternal patience, grinding boulders into soft powder over eons, creating a soft bed for the ocean to rest against, and for you to rest upon. High above the sand and the sea, circling our planet in the dark vacuum, is our guardian satellite, the moon. But let us focus on the phenomenon it creates, the eclipse. Every so often, the cosmic dance aligns perfectly. The moon slides directly between the Earth and the Sun. It is a moment of celestial coincidence. The moon is 400 times smaller than the Sun, but it is also 400 times closer, so they appear exactly the same size in our sky. Visualize a total solar eclipse. The day turns into a strange twilight dusk. The birds stop singing, confused by the sudden night. The air grows cool, and there, in the sky, is a black hole surrounded by a crown of white fire, the sun's corona. It is a moment of awe. It reminds us of the clockwork precision of the solar system. The Earth, Moon, and Sun are locked in a waltz of gravity, moving with such accuracy that we can predict these moments to the second, thousands of years in advance. It is a comforting predictability. In a chaotic life, the motions of the heavens are absolute, steady, and reliable. The shadow passes, the light returns, and the cycle continues, as it always has, and as it always will. Finally, we drift to the concept of the Earth's magnetism. Not just the field in space, but how it is felt by the living creatures below. This is the map written in the blood. Many creatures, sea turtles, salmon, migratory birds, have tiny crystals of magnetite in their bodies. They can feel the north. They are never lost. Visualize a sea turtle, born on a beach in Florida, swimming thousands of miles across the open Atlantic, drifting in the currents for years. When it's time to lay her eggs, she navigates back to the exact same stretch of sand where she was born. She does not need a GPS. She follows the magnetic lines of the Earth. This invisible web of guidance covers the entire planet. It means that there is always a direction, always a way home. The Earth provides the path. You too have a sense of orientation, a sense of where you belong. Just as the turtle trusts the magnetic hum of the planet to guide her through the dark ocean, you can trust the pull of your own rest, the gravity that draws you down into sleep, guiding you back to the center of your own peace. And as you find that center, trusting the invisible currents to hold you, you lift your gaze toward the distance where the sky bends down to kiss the sea. There lies the horizon. It is the most persistent line on Earth, a seam that stitches the heavens to the water. Visualize yourself standing on the deck of a ship in the middle of a calm ocean. All around you, in a perfect circle, is this line of division. It appears infinite, a boundary that you can never reach. No matter how far you sail, the horizon remains ahead of you, a promise of the future, a symbol of endless possibility. But this line is also a gentle reminder of the Earth's shape. The horizon exists because the world curves away from you. If you're standing at the water's edge, the horizon is only about 3 miles away. It feels vast, yet it is an intimate circle of visibility, a personal sphere of existence that travels with you wherever you go. Watch a ship sailing away toward that line. First, the hull disappears, hidden by the swell of the planet's curve, and then, slowly, the sails or the masts sink below the rim of the world, as if sliding down a gentle hill of blue water. This curvature is subtle, barely perceptible, yet it defines our perspective. It tells us that we are living on a sphere, a finite jewel where every direction eventually leads back to the start. To look at the horizon is to look at the edge of your own perception, a soft, blurry limit that invites your mind to rest. knowing it does not need to see everything at once, but only what is directly before it. As the sun dips below this curved line, the world enters a state of suspension known as twilight. This is the time between the times, the pause between the day's activity and the night's sleep. There is a specific moment during this transition called the blue hour. The sun is gone, but its light is still scattering through the upper atmosphere, bathing the landscape in a deep, saturated indigo. Shadows disappear during the blue hour, because the light is coming from the entire dome of the sky rather than a single point. The illumination is soft, diffuse, and shadowless. It wraps around objects, smoothing their edges, turning the world into a painting of soft tones. Visualize this light falling over a quiet valley. The greens of the trees deepen into emerald and black. The white of a farmhouse turns to a cool, glowing pearl. It is a time of hush. The birds cease their singing, and the crickets have not yet begun. The winds often die down at twilight, leaving the air still and heavy. Look toward the east, opposite the sunset, and you might see a band of pinkish glow hovering above the horizon. This is the belt of Venus, the shadow of the Earth itself being cast against the atmosphere. You're seeing the night rising, a physical curtain of darkness being drawn up from the edge of the world. Twilight is a signal to the body, a biological trigger that releases the hormones of rest, whispering to every cell that the time for striving is over and the time for dreaming has begun. As the air cools in the deepening twilight, the atmosphere descends to embrace the ground in the form of fog. Fog is simply a cloud that has lost its will to fly, a cloud that has decided to come down and touch the earth. Imagine walking through a meadow as the mist begins to rise. It starts as wisps, curling around your ankles like a white spectral cat, before thickening into a wall of soft opacity. The world narrows down. The distant trees vanish. The mountains are erased. You're left in a white room that moves with you, a cocoon of vapour. There is a profound comfort in this isolation. The fog hides the clutter of the world, simplifying your visual field to only what is immediate and close. It also changes the soundscape. Fog is thick with water droplets, and these droplets absorb sound waves. The roar of a distant highway, the bark of a dog, the hum of a city, all are muffled, dampened, and distanced. The world sounds as if it has been wrapped in cotton wool. In this damp silence, the air feels rich and easy to breathe. It hydrates the skin and lungs. To be in the fog is to be held in the breath of the planet, a suspended state of moisture that blurs the sharp lines of reality, allowing your mind to drift without focus, floating in the gentle grey nothingness. When the fog lifts or the night passes, it leaves behind a gift on every surface, the dew. This is the earth sweating cool diamonds. During the night, the ground radiates its heat away, cooling down until it touches the saturation point of the air. Suddenly, invisible water vapour transforms into liquid. Visualize a spiderweb strung between two blades of tall grass. In the daylight it is barely visible, but at dawn it is a necklace of pearls. Hundreds of tiny, perfect spheres of water cling to the silk, each one catching the first rays of the morning sun. Look closer at a single drop of dew resting on a green leaf. It is a lens. If you peer into it, you will see the entire world reflected upside down. The sky, the trees, the rising sun, all captured in a sphere no larger than a bead. This is the physics of surface tension. Water molecules holding onto each other so tightly that they form a perfect round shape to resist gravity. These droplets are the morning drink for the insects and the plants. It is a delivery of hydration that happens in the quietest hours, a magical appearance of water from thin air. The freshness of the morning, that crisp, clean feeling of a new day, is largely due to this settling of the dew, washing the dust from the air and polishing the world until it gleams. Beneath the dew-covered grass, in the shadowed corners of the forest and the damp hollows of the rocks lies the softest carpet on earth. Moss. Moss is an ancient lineage, a plant that decided eons ago that it did not need roots, nor flowers, nor wood. It simply needs to be. Visualize a forest floor covered in a thick rolling layer of green velvet. It softens the contours of the land, draping over fallen logs and jagged stones, turning everything into a rounded, gentle shape. Reach out in your mind and press your hand into a cushion of star moss. It is cool, damp, and infinitely yielding. It springs back slowly when you lift your hand. Moss is a sponge. It can hold 20 times its own weight in water. It drinks the rain and the fog directly through its leaves, acting as a natural reservoir that keeps the forest humid and alive. Because it has no roots to dig, it sits lightly upon the earth, a gentle guest. Walking on moss barefoot is one of the most grounding sensations imaginable. It is soft, silent, and forgiving. It absorbs the sound of footsteps, contributing to the church-like quiet of the deep woods. It is a reminder that strength does not always mean hardness. The moss survives the harshest winters and the driest summers by being soft, by holding on, by staying low and humble against the earth. Rising from this mossy bed are the ferns, the fractals of the forest. These plants are survivors from a time before the dinosaurs, a time when the earth was covered in giant green plumes. Watch a fern as it grows. It does not sprout straight up, it unravels. Visualize the fiddlehead, the tightly coiled spiral of a young fern frond. It looks like the scroll of a violin or the curve of a breaking wave. This shape is a spiral, one of nature's favourite designs. As the fern grows, it slowly unfurls, rolling out its delicate lace-like leaves. This process is a slow-motion yoga of the plant world, a stretching out toward the light. The leaves of the fern are repeating patterns. Each small leaflet looks exactly like the whole frond, a geometry known as a fractal. Looking at a fern can be deeply mesmerizing because of this repetition. The eye follows the patterns down into infinity. They love the shadows, thriving where other plants cannot, filling the understory with intricate feathery green fans that sway in the slightest breeze. They represent the unfolding of life, the slow, deliberate opening up of potential, unfurling from a tight centre of protection into a broad, open acceptance of the world. Near the water's edge, often bending down to touch the surface, stands the willow tree. While the oak is a symbol of strength, the willow is a symbol of flexibility and grace. Its branches are long, slender whips that do not break in the wind. They bend. Visualize a weeping willow, its thousands of branches cascading down like a green waterfall, creating a curtain of leaves that reaches the ground. To step inside the canopy of a willow tree is to step into a private room. The branches create a veil, separating you from the outside world, filtering the sunlight into shifting patterns of green and gold. The leaves are long and narrow, silver on the underside. When the breeze blows, the tree shimmers, a rippling wave of silver light. The sound of the wind in a willow is different from the sound in a pine or an oak. It is a soft, sweeping hush, a sound like a long sigh. The roots of the willow seek water aggressively, anchoring the banks of rivers, holding the earth together against the flow. It teaches the lesson of yielding, that to survive the storm one must be willing to bend, to flow with the wind rather than fight it, dancing with the forces of nature in a swaying rhythmic waltz. And where the river runs steep, the water transforms into power and mist, the waterfall. Whether it is a mighty cataract thundering over a cliff, or a small delicate vale dropping into a pool, a waterfall is a focal point of energy. Visualize the water reaching the precipice. It hesitates for a fraction of a second, clear and glass-like, before gravity takes hold. As it falls, it shatters into millions of droplets, turning white with air. The sound of a waterfall is white noise in its most natural form. It creates a wall of sound that masks all other frequencies, drowning out the chatter of the mind. It is a constant, heavy roar that does not change, a sonic constant that allows the brain to relax. But there is something else happening here, something invisible. The collision of the water molecules splits the air, creating negative ions. These charged particles float in the mist, and when you breathe them in, they have a biochemical effect, increasing serotonin, lightening the mood, creating a sense of clarity and energy. This is why you feel so refreshed near falling water. It is not just the beauty, it is the chemistry of the air. The mist kisses your face, cool and reviving, while the water plunges into the deep pool below, churning and bubbling before smoothing out again to continue its journey downstream. In that stream, beneath the clear, rushing water lie the river stones. These rocks tell a story of friction and time. Once they were jagged, sharp shards broken from the mountain, but the river has held them, rolled them, and tumbled them against one another for thousands of years. Visualize reaching into the cold, clear water and pulling out a stone. It fits perfectly in your palm. It is cool, heavy, and impossibly smooth. Rub your thumb over the surface. There are no sharp edges left. They have been erased by the gentle, persistent caress of the water. This stone is a testament to the power of softness over hardness. The water, yielding and fluid, has conquered the rock, not by force, but by consistency. Holding a river stone is holding a piece of patience. It grounds you, its weight a comforting reminder of the physical world. Place it back in the water in your mind and watch it settle into its bed, joining the millions of others in a mosaic of greys, browns and whites, lying in the cool dark, letting the river rush over it for another 1,000 years. Where the stones end and the current slows, the earth softens into something yielding and malleable: clay. Along the riverbanks, the soil has been refined into a dense, smooth paste. Visualize sinking your hands into a bank of cool, wet clay. It is slippery and thick, pressing back against your fingers with a heavy, suctioning embrace. Unlike the sand which crumbles or the stone which resists, the clay remembers. It holds the impression of your hand. It takes the shape you give it. This material is the flesh of the earth. It is composed of the finest particles of rock, weathered down until they are microscopic plates that slide over one another. This is why it is so plastic, so willing to be molded. For millennia, human hands have shaped this mud into bowls, into cups, into bricks for homes. It is a material of shelter and sustenance. But in its raw state by the river, it is simply a cooling balm. Imagine the sensation of this earth paste drying on your skin, tightening slightly, drawing out the heat, a natural therapy provided by the riverbank. It smells of deep, wet history, a primal scent that speaks of the very beginning of creation, of things waiting to be formed from the dust. Buried even deeper than the clay, often hidden within the quartz veins of the hard rock, or settled in the silt of the riverbeds, lies the earth's hidden treasure: gold. We are not looking at this with greed, but with wonder at its properties. Gold is stardust. It was created in the collisions of neutron stars billions of years ago and seeded into our planet while it was still molten. Visualize a tiny flake of gold sitting at the bottom of a clear stream, catching a ray of sunlight. It glints with an eternal warm luster. It is the only metal that is yellow. All others are grey or white. It mimics the sun, and it is incorruptible. Iron rusts, copper turns green, silver tarnishes, but gold remains pure. It can sit in the mud for 1,000,000 years and emerge as bright as the day it was born. It is heavy, dense, and soft. You could mould it with your hands like the clay. The earth keeps this metal tucked away in its darkest pockets, a secret reserve of solar light buried in the stone. To find a piece is to touch something that refuses to change, a symbol of the eternal and the untarnished amidst a world that is constantly eroding and decaying. But the river does not just hide treasures, it creates monuments. Over millions of years, the persistence of the water cuts through the crust to create the canyon. Stand now at the rim of a great chasm, like the Grand Canyon. The earth opens up before you, revealing its inner anatomy. You're looking down into the abyss of time. The walls are banded in stripes of rust, ochre, cream, and purple, layer upon layer of sedimentary rock, each representing an era of the planet's history. The scale is humbling. The river that carved it looks like a thin silver ribbon a mile below, yet it has moved all this rock. The air in the canyon is still and silent, holding the heat of the day in its stone embrace. As the sun moves across the sky, the shadows in the canyon shift and lengthen, changing the colours of the walls from bright orange to deep violet. It is a landscape of sculpture on a planetary scale. To sit on the rim is to sit on the edge of the world, legs dangling over a void that is not empty, but filled with the heavy presence of geological time. It puts a human life into perspective, offering a deep, quiet comfort in the realization that the Earth operates on a clock so slow that our anxieties are fleeting seconds in its long, majestic day. In these deep, rock-walled spaces, the Earth finds its voice through the echo. Sound typically flies away from us and is lost, but in the canyon, the Earth answers back. Shout a greeting into the void. Hello. A second later, the wall opposite you replies, hello, hello. It is a perfect acoustic reflection. The sound wave travels through the air, strikes the hard stone and bounces back to your ears. It is a delay, a fold in time where the past returns to the present. There is a playful solitude in an echo. You're alone, yet the landscape is conversing with you. It creates a sense of space. You can hear the distance. The clarity of the echo tells you how smooth the rock is, how still the air is. In the silence between your call and the answer, there is a moment of pure anticipation. It is nature's way of doubling your existence, confirming that you are there, that your voice has weight, and that the world is listening. Climbing up from the depths of the canyon, we emerge onto the flat, open tablelands, and then drift into the vast expanse of the grasslands, the prairie. If the forest is a place of shadows and secrets, the prairie is a place of total exposure and light. Visualize a sea of grass stretching to the horizon in every direction. It is a terrestrial ocean. The wind here is visible. You can see it moving through the tall grass in rolling waves, silver-green ripples that race across the landscape. The sound is a continuous dry rustling, a soft shh that never stops. It is one of the most soothing white noises on the planet. The sky here feels bigger than anywhere else. It is a massive dome of blue, unhindered by trees or mountains. You're a small point in the centre of a great circle. The smell is sweet. The scent of drying hay, wild sage, and heated earth. To lie down in the tall grass is to disappear. You are hidden in a miniature forest of green stalks, watching the clouds sail by in the massive sky above, held in the cradle of the open plains. As the heat of the afternoon builds on these plains, the energy of the atmosphere begins to gather into a thunderstorm. We often fear storms, but from a place of safety, they are a majestic release of tension. Visualize the clouds piling up, towering white anvils turning dark, bruising into deep purples and greys. The air grows heavy and still. The birds go quiet. Then, the low rumble begins. Thunder. It is the voice of the sky. It is a sound that you feel in your chest as much as you hear with your ears. It is a vibration, a deep, resonant bass note played by the atmosphere. The thunder rolls across the open land, a long, tearing sound that echoes off the ground itself. It is the sound of power, but also of clearing. It signifies that the pressure is about to break, that the heat is about to be washed away. There is a cozy primal feeling in being safe inside while a storm rumbles without, a feeling known as higgy. The thick walls of your home, the warm blanket, the dry air, all feel more precious when contrasted with the raw power of the storm outside. And illuminating this dark drama is the lightning. It is the nervous system of the planet, a firing synapse connecting the clouds to the ground. A bolt of lightning is hotter than the surface of the sun. For a split second, it turns the night into day, freezing the world in a stark blue-white flash. Visualize the branching pattern of a bolt. It looks like a river system, or the roots of a tree, or the veins in your hand. It is nature's fractal pattern again, written in fire. The lightning balances the Earth's electrical charge. It is a necessary purge. After the flash, the darkness returns deeper than before, leaving an afterimage on your retina. It is a moment of pure awe, a reminder that we live on an electrically active planet, a world that is vibrant and energetic. It is the spark of life, fierce and beautiful, dancing in the cathedral of the storm clouds. After the noise and the flash, as the rain slows to a stop, the air is filled with a distinct sharp scent. Ozone. It is the smell of cleanliness. The lightning has split the oxygen molecules in the air, creating this fresh metallic perfume. It smells like charged air, like high altitude, like purity. Breathe it in. The air after a storm feels scrubbed. The dust has been washed away. The pollen has been grounded. The world looks sharper, high definition. The greens are greener, the stones are darker. This post-storm clarity is a reset button for the senses. The heaviness of the humidity is gone, replaced by a cool, crisp buoyancy. It is the atmosphere's way of starting over. It invites you to step outside, to take a deep breath, and to feel the renewal that comes after the release of tension, a physical manifestation of the calm after the storm. On the ground, the storm has left behind small temporary mirrors, puddles. In the depressions of the asphalt, in the hollows of the rocks, water has gathered. These shallow pools are magical for a brief time. They bring the sky down to the ground. Look into a puddle. You see the clouds drifting under your feet. You see the branches of the trees reaching down into the earth. It creates a duality, a world where you can walk on the sky. The surface is perfectly still, undisturbed. If you drop a pebble into it, the ripples distort the reflection, shaking the image before slowly smoothing it out again. These puddles are fleeting. The sun will steal them back, or the earth will drink them up. But for now they are scattered jewels, capturing the light, doubling the beauty of the world, reminding us to look down to see the things that are up, finding the heavens resting quietly on the damp earth. But as the sun climbs higher, these small scattered mirrors of the puddles begin to vanish. The water does not simply disappear, it retreats. Some of it rises to the sky, but much of it seeps downward, slipping between the grains of soil and the cracks in the pavement. We follow this water now, descending into the dark, silent world of the aquifer. Beneath the solid ground you walk upon, there are vast hidden oceans of fresh water. These are not open lakes, but massive sponges of rock and sand saturated with liquid. Visualize the water trickling down, inch by inch, filtered by layers of limestone and granite until it reaches this deep, cool sanctuary. It moves here with agonizing slowness. A single drop might take a century to travel a mile. This is water in its purest state, untouched by the light of day, shielded from the chaos of the surface. It is a hidden reserve, a planetary savings account of life. To think of the aquifer is to think of a deep, heavy stability, a fluid foundation that rests quietly in the absolute dark, supporting the rivers and the wells above, holding the world up on a cushion of cool, pressurized water. Sometimes, amidst the solid rock where this water flows, there are hollow spaces. Nature loves a secret, and there is no secret more beautiful than a geode. Imagine walking through a rocky landscape and picking up a rough, dusty stone. It looks ordinary, a lump of grey, uninteresting rock, but this stone is deception. If you were to crack it open, you would find that it is hollow, and inside it is lined with a city of sparkling crystals. Visualize the interior, jagged peaks of purple amethyst, or clear quartz, or blue celestite, all pointing inward toward the centre. These crystals have grown in the silence of the stone over millions of years, born from mineral-rich water seeping into a gas bubble in volcanic rock. They are perfect, geometric, and glittering, yet they exist in total darkness. They are not growing for an audience. They are beauty for beauty's sake. The geode teaches us that the rough exterior is merely a shell and that the true treasure is often hidden deep inside, waiting to be revealed, protecting a delicate, crystalline heart from the harshness of the outside world. From the heavy, crystal-lined stone, we drift to a rock that defies the very nature of stone, pumice. This is a rock born from the most violent explosions of a volcano, yet it ends up as the gentlest of stones. When the lava is ejected into the air, it is filled with gas frothing like champagne. As it cools instantly, those bubbles are trapped, creating a stone that is more air than rock. Visualize holding a piece of pumice. It is rough and textured, full of tiny pores, yet it is shockingly light. If you were to toss this stone into a lake, it would not sink. It would bob on the surface, drifting with the current. It is a floating rock, a paradox of geology. Over time, these floating stones can cross entire oceans, carrying seeds and tiny creatures to new islands. It is a natural raft. Feel the texture of it against your skin. It is an exfoliant, a scrubber. It uses its roughness to smooth things down. It is a reminder that even rock can be buoyant, that even the heaviest things can be made light if they are filled with enough air. Floating alongside the pumice on the currents of the ocean is another traveller, driftwood. This is wood that has left the forest and given itself to the sea. It has been stripped of its bark, its leaves, and its identity as a specific tree. The sun has bleached it to a soft, ghostly silver white. The salt has preserved it. The waves have sanded it down until it is smooth as bone. Visualize a piece of driftwood washed up on a lonely beach. It is twisted into a sculptural shape, its grain raised and weathered, telling the story of its journey. It feels warm to the touch, having absorbed the heat of the sun. It smells of salt and old forests. There is a profound stillness to driftwood. It has finished its growing and its travelling, and now it rests, a natural sculpture perfected by the elements. It is the ultimate symbol of letting go, of allowing the currents of life to take you where they will, eroding your sharp edges until you are polished, beautiful, and at peace with the shore. Resting in the sand near the driftwood, glistening like a wet jewel, is a piece of sea glass. This too is a traveller, but of human origin. Once it was a bottle, sharp, shiny, and fragile. But the ocean claimed it. For decades the waves have tumbled it, knocking it against the sand and the stones, breaking it, and then healing the breaks. Pick up a piece of sea glass in your mind. It is no longer sharp. Its edges are rounded and soft. It is no longer transparent but frosted, glowing with a soft internal light, emerald green, cobalt blue, or sunset amber. It has acquired a texture like sugar. This transformation is the ocean's way of softening the artificial. It takes what is dangerous and makes it harmless. It takes what is discarded and makes it a treasure. Holding a piece of sea glass is a tactile comfort. It is a worry stone that reminds you that friction and tumbling do not destroy you. They refine you, turning you into something softer and more beautiful than you were before. Scattered among the glass and the wood are the architects of the shore, the seashells. These are the abandoned homes of the ocean's quietest residents. Visualize the perfect spiral of a nautilus or the fanned ridges of a scallop shell. This is geometry grown from calcium. The animal builds its home layer by layer, expanding the shell as it grows, following the precise mathematical laws of nature. Trace the ridges with your finger. They are cool and ceramic-like. Each shell is a fortress, designed to protect a soft body from the pressure of the deep and the hunger of the predators. But now, empty on the beach, it is a vessel of light. The colours, pinks, creams, speckled browns, are painted by the creature's diet and the minerals of the water. They are the most durable souvenirs of the sea, calcium castles that survive long after the builder is gone. They remind us of the instinct to build a sanctuary, to create a safe space around ourselves that is both functional and beautiful. If you lift one of these large, spiralling conch shells to your ear, you encounter a sonic illusion that has charmed humans for millennia: the sound of the ocean. You hear a rushing, roaring noise, a constant wave that never breaks. We're told it is the sea, but in reality, it is the sound of your own body and the ambient noise of the world around you, captured and resonated by the shell's curve. The shell acts as an echo chamber, amplifying the quiet frequencies you usually ignore. You're hearing the blood rushing in your own ear, the vibration of your own life. It is a feedback loop of presence. To listen to a shell is to listen to the silence being magnified. It creates a private auditory space, a portable sanctuary of white noise. It connects you to the rhythm of the tides, not because the sea is inside the shell, but because the sea is inside you, in the salt of your blood and the rush of your pulse, singing back to itself through the spiral of the stone. Inside some of these shells, specifically the oysters and the abalone, there is a hidden lining known as nacre, or mother of pearl. It is the secret beauty of the mollusk. The outside of the shell may be rough, barnacle-covered and grey, indistinguishable from a rock. But turn it over, and the inside is a swirling landscape of iridescence. Visualize the light catching the nacre. It shifts from silver to pink to green to blue, moving like oil on water. This material is incredibly strong, built like a brick wall on a microscopic level. The creature creates this smooth lining to protect its soft body from the rough shell. It is creating its own comfort. It lines its walls with rainbows. It is a hidden luxury, a reminder that we all have an inner landscape that is softer and more beautiful than the armour we show to the world, a place of shimmering peace kept safe on the inside, and sometimes an irritant, a grain of sand or a parasite, invades this safe space. The creature does not fight it, it embraces it. It begins to coat the intruder with layer upon layer of that same nacre. This is the birth of a pearl. Visualize this slow process. Day by day, year by year, the sharp grain is wrapped in softness, buried under thousands of microscopic sheets of crystal. The defense mechanism turns the pain into a gemstone. The result is a perfect sphere of luster, a moon born from the sea. A pearl is the only gem that does not need to be cut or polished to be beautiful. It is born perfect. It is warm to the touch, unlike cold stone. It is a lesson in resilience. It teaches us that the things that trouble us, the grit in our lives, can be transformed. We can wrap them in patience, layer by layer, until they become the most precious parts of who we are. Finally, we drift from the hard shell to the softest inhabitant of the reef, the sea sponge. It is the simplest of animals, having no brain, no heart, no mouth. It is a living structure of pores and channels. Visualize a natural sponge sitting on the ocean floor, swaying gently with the current. It is the colour of sand or sun. The sponge is the ultimate receiver. It does not chase, it waits. It allows the ocean to flow through it, filtering the water for nutrients, taking only what it needs and letting the rest pass. It is open to the world. Squeeze a natural sponge in your hand. It is resilient, springing back to its original shape no matter how hard you press. It is incredibly absorbent, holding water within its very fibres. To wash with a natural sponge is to touch the skeleton of an ancient creature, a tool of softness that has cleaned and comforted bodies for thousands of years. It represents a state of total flow, of being permeable to the environment, allowing the waters of life to pass through you, cleansing and sustaining you without resistance. And where the water flows through the sponge, cleansing and nourishing, it also flows around the great calcified cities of the ocean floor, the coral reefs. We drift now from the soft, solitary sponge to the bustling, colourful metropolis of the underwater world. These structures are visible from space, yet they are built by creatures no larger than an ant. Visualize the coral polyp, a tiny, soft-bodied organism that extracts calcium from the seawater to build a hard, protective cup around itself. It is a master mason of the deep, Over thousands of years, billions of these tiny cups stack upon one another, creating the massive, intricate shapes we know as reefs. They resemble the human brain, or the antlers of a deer, or great flat tables waiting for a banquet. The colours are vibrant, electric neons of pink, purple and chartreuse, derived from the microscopic algae that live within the coral's tissues. This is a partnership of light and stone. The reef is the rainforest of the ocean, a chaotic, beautiful density of life where every nook and cranny is a home. Imagine floating weightlessly above a reef in the shallows. The sun penetrates the crystal clear water, illuminating the landscape below in high definition. You hear the click, click, click of shrimp and the crunch of parrotfish grazing on the stone. It is a busy, happy sound. The reef breaks the power of the waves, protecting the shorelines behind it. It is a natural fortress, a wall of the living rock that absorbs the fury of the ocean and turns it into a gentle, frothy calm. To be near a reef is to witness the power of community, of tiny, fragile things working together to build a monument that can weather the fiercest storms, a colourful testament to the strength found in numbers and slow, persistent growth. Nestled within the crevices of this hard coral landscape lives a creature that embodies the paradox of softness and danger, the sea anemone. At first glance, it appears to be a flower, a chrysanthemum of the deep blooming on a rock. But it is an animal, a close cousin of the jellyfish and the coral. Visualize its ring of tentacles, long and slender, swaying gently in the current like tall grass in the wind. They are soft, translucent, and tipped with rose or violet. There is a hypnotic quality to the movement of an anemone. It does not rush, it waits. Its tentacles are constantly undulating, dancing to the rhythm of the water. For most creatures, these soft ribbons are dangerous, filled with tiny stinging cells. But for the clownfish, the anemone is a sanctuary. Visualize the bright orange and white fish nestling deep into the tentacles. It is immune to the sting. The anemone protects the fish from predators, wrapping it in a deadly hug that feels like safety. This symbiotic relationship is one of nature's most comforting images. A small, vulnerable being finding a home in the arms of a protector that scares away the rest of the world. At night, or when threatened, the anemone folds in on itself, retracting its tentacles and becoming a small, unassuming blob. It tucks its beauty away, hiding its delicate parts until the danger passes, a master of self-preservation that knows exactly when to open up to the world and when to close the door and rest. Drifting away from the colourful, shallow reefs, we move into cooler, deeper waters where the vegetation grows tall and grand. We enter the swaying cathedrals of the kelp forests. These are not plants in the traditional sense, but giant algae, growing from the sea floor up to the surface at a speed that rivals bamboo. Some strands can grow 2 feet in a single day. Visualize yourself diving into this underwater grove. The kelp stalks are thick, rubbery ropes, anchoring themselves to the rocks with a grip of iron. From these stalks, golden brown blades unfurl like giant leaves. Because the water supports their weight, they do not need rigid trunks. They are fluid, flexible, moving in perfect synchronization with the ocean swells. The light here is magical. As the sun filters down from the surface, it passes through the amber blades of the kelp, turning the water into a cathedral of gold and green light. It is dim, moody, and silent. Shafts of god rays pierce the canopy, illuminating the particulate matter dancing in the water like dust motes in an old library. The kelp forest dampens the currents, creating a calm, sheltered environment within. It is a place of hiding, a nursery for fish. To float here is to be held in a suspension of liquid amber, watching the slow, rhythmic swaying of the giant fronds, a hypnotic dance that mimics the pace of a slow, deep breath. Resting on the surface of these kelp forests, wrapped in the golden fronds, lies one of the ocean's most endearing sleepers, the sea otter. These creatures have mastered the art of relaxation in the water. Because they have no blubber to keep them warm, They rely on the densest fur in the animal kingdom, up to 1 million hairs per square inch. This fur traps a layer of air against their skin, keeping them completely dry and warm even while submerged in freezing water. Visualize a raft of otters floating on their backs, bobbing gently with the waves. They are the definition of buoyancy. But the ocean is moving, and they need to sleep. To keep from drifting out to sea, they perform a ritual of anchoring. They grab a strand of the giant kelp and wrap it around their bodies like a seat belt or a blanket. Securely tethered to the forest below, they close their eyes. Sometimes, to stay together, they hold hands. Picture 2 sleeping otters, paws clasped, drifting side by side. It is a gesture of pure connection, a physical bond that says, "I have you. We will not drift apart." Watching them float, bellies up to the sun, paws tucked or holding a partner, is to witness total trust in the environment. They surrender to the motion of the sea, confident that their anchor will hold, safe in the cradle of the waves. From the surface dwellers, we dive deep, following a sound that vibrates through the very skeleton of the planet. We encounter the whale song. The ocean is not silent. It is a symphony hall for the blue whale and the humpback. These leviathans, the largest creatures to ever exist, communicate over distances that are hard to comprehend. A single call can travel across an entire ocean basin. Visualize the sound. It is not a noise you hear so much as a resonance you feel. It is a low-frequency hum, a series of moans, pulses and clicks that sit below the range of human hearing, yet resonate in the chest cavity. These songs are complex, with repeating stanzas and rhymes. They are the ballads of the deep. In the dark, vast emptiness of the ocean, where vision is limited, sound becomes the primary sense. The whale song is a tether, a way of saying, "I am here," across miles of black water. It is a mournful, hauntingly beautiful melody that speaks of ancient pathways and deep solitude. To listen to recordings of these songs is to slow down your own biological clock. The whales do not rush their communication. A single phrase can last for minutes. It is a reminder of the scale of the earth, of the vast, deep spaces where giant hearts beat slowly in the darkness, singing to one another in a language of vibration and depth. Floating in these same cold, high-latitude waters are the white monarchs of the sea, the icebergs. These are the children of the glaciers, massive chunks of freshwater ice that have broken off and set out to sea. They are sculptures of wind and water, carved into arches, spires and flat-topped tables. Visualize an iceberg drifting in a steel-grey sea. It is dazzlingly white, blinding in the sun, with veins of electric blue running through it where the ice has melted and refrozen. But what you see is a deception. Only 10% of the iceberg is visible above the water. Beneath the surface, the keel of the iceberg descends hundreds of feet into the gloom. This hidden mass is what gives the iceberg its stability. It is grounded by its own depth. Storms may rage on the surface, waves may batter the visible peak, but the bulk of the mountain below remains untouched, calm and steady. This is the ultimate metaphor for composure. The iceberg moves with the deep currents, not the surface winds. It travels with a majestic, unstoppable momentum. To watch one is to see a piece of the frozen past drifting into the present, a silent white voyager carrying the history of the Ice Age slowly toward the equator, melting drop by drop, returning its ancient water to the sea. If you follow these icebergs back to their source near the poles during the summer months, you enter a realm where time seems to break, the land of the midnight sun. Due to the tilt of the Earth, there are weeks or months in the high north and south where the sun never sets. It circles the horizon, dipping low but never disappearing. Visualize the golden hour, that magical time of soft, warm light that usually lasts for 20 minutes before sunset. Now, stretch that out for 6 hours. The world is bathed in a perpetual surreal gold. The shadows are long and stretching, painting the snow and the sea in shades of violet and apricot. It is a timeless state. There is no night to signal the end of activity, only an endless glowing afternoon. It creates a dreamlike confusion, a suspension of the rules of day and night. The birds may sing at 2 a.m, the flowers remain open. To stand under the midnight sun is to feel energized yet peaceful, bathed in a light that refuses to die. It is a gentle, amber eternity, where the sun kisses the horizon and then rises again, a promise of light that is kept unbroken, banishing the darkness completely for a season of pure illumination. Beneath this unsetting sun lies a landscape of subtle beauty, the tundra. It is a biome of cold, flat plains where the ground is permanently frozen just below the surface. Because of this permafrost, trees cannot grow tall. Their roots cannot pierce the ice. So, the life here hugs the ground. Visualize a carpet of russet, gold and olive green. The tundra is covered in low shrubs, sedges, mosses and lichens. It is a soft landscape. If you walk on it, the ground feels spongy and springy like a thick memory foam mattress. It absorbs your steps. In the summer, this harsh land explodes with life. Tiny, resilient flowers, Arctic poppies, forget-me-nots, bloom in a rush, creating drifts of blue and yellow against the grey rocks. There is a vast horizontal peace here. The horizon is wide and unobscured. The wind sweeps across it without resistance. It is a place of minimalism, where life strips away the unnecessary and focuses on the essential, staying low, staying warm and enduring. The silence of the tundra is profound, unbroken by the rustle of leaves, filled only by the whisper of the wind in the low grass and the distant call of a ptarmigan. It is the earth in its most raw, stripped-back state, a beautiful, barren velvet that covers the frozen roof of the world. In this damp, cool environment, and in similar wet hollows across the globe, the earth preserves its history in the peat bogs. These are wetlands where the water is acidic and low in oxygen, which stops the process of decay. Dead plants do not rot here. They accumulate layer upon layer, turning into peat. Visualize a landscape of dark, still pools reflecting the sky, surrounded by hummocks of vibrant green and red sphagnum moss. This moss is the architect of the bog. It holds water like a sponge, keeping the ground permanently saturated. The smell of a bog is distinct, rich, earthy and smoky. It is the smell of condensed time. Because decay has halted, bogs are perfect preservers. Ancient wooden wheels, pollen grains from thousands of years ago, even jars of butter buried by ancestors have been found perfectly intact in the peat. It is a natural archive. Walking on a bog is like walking on a waterbed. The ground undulates beneath you, a phenomenon called quaking bog. It is unsettling yet soft. The bog is a slow, quiet place, a land that remembers. It takes what falls into it and keeps it safe, holding it in a dark, watery stasis, protecting the past from the eroding march of time. Clinging to the rocks that rise out of the tundra and the bogs is one of the most resilient and artistic forms of life, lichen. It is often overlooked, seen as mere crust on a stone, but lichen is a marvel of cooperation. It is not one organism but two, a fungus and an algae, living together in a perfect marriage. The fungus provides the structure and protection. The algae provides the food through photosynthesis. Visualize a granite boulder covered in these living paintings. They come in bright oranges, sulfur yellows, mint greens, and slate greys. They form circles and starburst patterns, expanding outward by millimeters each year. Some lichen colonies are among the oldest living things on Earth, thousands of years old, sitting on the same rock, slowly, chemically eating it. This is the patience of the lichen. It is the first thing to grow on bare rock, breaking it down into the first soil. It prepares the way for everything else. Run your hand over a lichen-covered rock. It feels rough, dry, and papery. It thrives in places where nothing else can survive, on high mountain peaks, in freezing deserts, on barren lava flows. It creates beauty out of nothingness. It is a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, life finds a way to cling on, to add colour to the grey, and to slowly, quietly, transform the hard world into something softer. And beneath the lichen, supporting the moss, the soil, and the oceans, is the bedrock of the continents, granite. This is the stone of strength. Unlike the sedimentary rock formed by settling dust, granite is igneous, born of fire. It formed from magma cooling slowly, deep underground, allowing large, strong crystals to grow. Visualize a slab of polished granite. It is a galaxy of speckles. You see the pink of feldspar, the clear grey of quartz, and the black flakes of mica. It is a stone of complexity and density. It is incredibly hard, resistant to the scratch of time. When you stand on a mountain of granite, you are standing on the very crust of the planet, the floating raft that carries the continents. There is a feeling of permanence to granite. It does not crumble easily like sandstone. It does not dissolve like limestone. It endures. It is the material of monuments, chosen to last for eternity. Yet, even granite eventually weathers, rounding off into the smooth domes of Yosemite or the sugar sand of a beach. But in the moment it feels immutable, a solid, cool, speckled foundation that invites you to lay your burdens down on something that can hold infinite weight without cracking, the strong, silent backbone of the world. And embedded within that granite, sparkling like frozen drops of water amidst the pink and grey, lies the most abundant and perhaps the most mystical mineral of the Earth's crust, quartz. If granite is the bone of the planet, quartz is its nervous system. Visualize a single, clear point of quartz crystal. It is a hexagonal prism, six-sided, terminating in a perfect pyramid. It is cool to the touch, smooth as glass, yet harder than steel. Hold this crystal in the palm of your mind. It is transparent, a window into the stone itself, but quartz possesses a secret ability known as piezoelectricity. If you squeeze it or tap it, it generates a tiny invisible spark of electricity. It vibrates. This vibration is so precise, so unshakable, that we use it to keep time. The clocks on our walls and the watches on our wrists are governed by the rhythmic, microscopic pulsing of a quartz crystal. Think of what this means. The Earth itself is a timekeeper. Deep within the crust, in the veins of the mountains, billions of these crystals are humming silently, resonating with a frequency that has remained constant for aeons. It is a heartbeat of stone. When you touch a piece of quartz, you're touching the stabilizer of the modern world, a clear, cold master of rhythm that translates the chaos of energy into the order of time. It reminds us that there is a pulse to the planet, a steady, unwavering beat that continues regardless of the noise of our lives, ticking away the centuries in a state of perfect, crystalline calm. When the granite weathers and the quartz crystals are released, they are carried by wind and water to gather in vast dunes, eventually cementing together to form sandstone. This is the stone of warmth. Unlike the cool greys of granite, sandstone glows with the colours of the sunset: rust red, burnt orange, golden yellow, and soft cream. It is a sedimentary rock, built layer by layer over millions of years. Visualize the walls of a canyon carved from this stone, Antelope Canyon, or the Narrows of Zion. The rock here is not jagged, it is fluid. The wind has eroded it into smooth flowing curves that look like petrified waves. It is rock that mimics the shape of water. The sunlight filters down from above, bouncing off the red walls, creating a warm ambient glow that feels like being inside a lantern. Run your hand over the wall. It feels like sandpaper, gritty yet soft, warm from the stored heat of the sun. You can see the layers, the striations that mark the passing of seasons and ancient storms. Each line is a page in a history book that goes back to the time of the dinosaurs. Sandstone is softer than granite. It is vulnerable to the elements, and in its vulnerability, it becomes beautiful. It allows the wind to sculpt it into arches and bridges, into spires and hoodoos. It is a testament to the beauty of being shaped by your environment, of allowing the soft, persistent forces of nature to carve you into a masterpiece of curves and light. In these arid landscapes where the sandstone dominates, the earth holds a dormant secret: the desert bloom. For years, the desert floor may appear barren, a landscape of dry scrub and dust. But hidden in the soil, protected by hard outer shells, lie billions of seeds. They are the sleepers of the sand. They are waiting for a specific signal, a precise amount of rain to fall at the precise time. Visualize this transformation. The rain comes, soaking the parched earth, and then, as if by magic, the brown landscape explodes into colour. Almost overnight, carpets of purple verbena, yellow sunflowers and orange poppies cover the valley floor. It is a super bloom, a frantic, joyous celebration of life. The scent is intoxicating, a heavy, sweet perfume that hangs in the dry air, mixing with the smell of wet sage. This phenomenon is a reminder of resilience and patience. The desert is not dead, it is merely resting. It teaches us that periods of dormancy are natural. Just because nothing is growing on the surface does not mean nothing is happening underneath. The potential for beauty is always there, waiting for the right conditions to unfurl. When the flowers bloom, they do so with an intensity that makes up for the long wait, painting the harsh world in the softest petals, a fleeting, miraculous garden born from the dust. And where the flowers fade, deep in the heart of the dunes, the earth offers a permanent sanctuary, the oasis. This is one of the most comforting archetypes in the human imagination, the refuge in the wilderness. An oasis is not a mirage. It is a place where the deep aquifer we spoke of earlier breaks the surface. Visualize the stark contrast. You're surrounded by miles of burning, shifting sand, a world of monochrome beige, and then suddenly a burst of emerald green. The date palms rise tall and slender, their fronds casting a cool, dark shade that is 30 degrees cooler than the open desert. In the centre lies a pool of water, still and mirroring the palms. The water is sweet and cold, filtered by its long journey through the sand. To step into an oasis is to step out of the struggle and into the embrace. The sound of the wind in the palm fronds is a dry, rhythmic clatter, a natural applause. Birds gather here, singing in the canopy. It is a microcosm of paradise, a reminder that the earth always provides a way to survive. Even in the most hostile environments, there is a hidden pocket of ease, a bubbling spring of life that sustains the weary traveller. It represents the hope that no matter how dry the journey, there is always a place of rest waiting ahead. But sometimes, the heat of the desert plays tricks on the eyes, creating the atmospheric phenomenon known as a mirage. This is the earth painting with light. When the sun beats down on the sand, a layer of air just above the ground becomes superheated. This hot air bends the light rays coming from the sky, acting like a mirror. Visualize looking at the horizon on a hot day. The ground seems to shimmer and dance. In the distance, you see what looks like a pool of water reflecting the blue sky. It looks liquid, rippling and cool. As you approach, it recedes, remaining forever out of reach. This is the Fata Morgana. It can make distant mountains look like they are floating in the air, detached from the earth, hovering like islands in the sky. While it is an illusion, a mirage is a beautiful example of the fluidity of perception. It turns the solid world into a dreamscape. The horizon becomes unreliable, watery, and shifting. It reminds us that our eyes can be deceived, that the atmosphere is a lens that can distort reality into something magical. There is a relaxation in watching the heat waves ripple, blurring the sharp edges of the world, turning the hard landscape into a painting of soft, moving light, dissolving the certainty of the horizon into a shimmering haze. This heat does not just stay in the desert, it rises and moves toward the equator, creating a band of weather around the middle of the planet known as the doldrums. For sailors of old, this was a place of awe and frustration, but for the dreamer, it is a place of absolute glass-like stillness. Visualize the ocean at the equator. The trade winds from the north and the south meet here and neutralize each other, rising upward rather than blowing across the water. The result is a sea that can be perfectly flat without a single ripple for weeks. It is a mirror of infinite proportion. The clouds here pile up high, towering white cathedrals of cumulus that reflect perfectly in the dark blue water below. In the doldrums, the silence is heavy. The sails hang limp, the rigging ceases to creak. The only movement is the slow, rhythmic breathing of the ocean's swell, a gentle rise and fall that does not break. It is a pause in the planetary engine. The world feels suspended. It is a zone of waiting, of surrendering to the lack of momentum. It teaches the lesson of stillness, that sometimes there is nothing to do but wait, to float, to look at your own reflection in the deep water and be at peace with the lack of progress, simply existing in the warm, silent centre of the world. Drifting from the open ocean to the tropical coastlines, we encounter a forest that walks on water, the mangroves. These are the only trees in the world that can live in salt water. They bridge the gap between the land and the sea. Visualize a maze of roots arching out of the water like the legs of 1,000 wooden crabs. These are prop roots, holding the tree up above the high tide, allowing it to breathe. The water in a mangrove forest is calm, stained the colour of tea by the fallen leaves. It is a nursery. Between the tangled roots, thousands of baby fish hide from predators. It is a safe haven. The light here is dappled, filtering through the thick green canopy to dance on the dark water. Mangroves are the kidneys of the coast. Their roots filter the sediment, trapping the mud and clarifying the water, protecting the coral reefs further out. They absorb the energy of the storm surge, standing firm when the hurricane blows, a living wall of protection. There is a sense of ancient mystery here. The air is thick, humid, and quiet, filled with the soft popping sounds of crabs and the splash of mud skippers. To float through a mangrove tunnel is to enter a secret room of nature, a place where the boundaries between earth and water are erased, woven together by a basketry of living wood. Just beyond the mangroves, in the shallow, sunlit waters, stretch the seagrass meadows. These are not seaweeds, but true flowering plants that have returned to the ocean. Visualize a vast underwater prairie, a field of vibrant green ribbons waving in the current. The water is clear and turquoise, and the sun paints moving networks of gold light on the white sand below. It is a landscape of gentle motion. The grass bows in unison to the invisible wind of the tide. It is silent and serene. Drifting over these meadows, you might see a sea turtle grazing peacefully, moving with the slow, deliberate grace of a creature that has nowhere to be. These meadows are the lungs of the shallow seas, capturing carbon faster than a rainforest, burying it in the sand. There is a feeling of abundance here. The blades of grass provide shelter for seahorses and scallops. It is a pastoral scene, a submerged countryside of lush green. The visual of the waving grass is deeply hypnotic, a metronome of nature that swings back and forth, lulling the ocean to sleep. It is a place of soft light and soft textures, a green blanket wrapped around the waist of the continents. Where the sea meets the rocky shore, the retreating tide leaves behind small, temporary universes, the tide pools. These are pockets of seawater trapped in the hollows of the rocks. When the ocean pulls back, the chaos of the crashing waves is replaced by the stillness of these small ponds. Look closely into a single pool. It is a miniature garden. The bottom is lined with pink coralline algae and bright green sea lettuce. A purple sea urchin sits in the corner motionless. A starfish, rough and orange, clings to the rock wall. Anemones open their flower-like tentacles, blooming in the quiet water. Life here is lived in the rhythm of the tides, 6 hours of being submerged, 6 hours of being exposed. The creatures are masters of adaptation. The water in the pool is still and clear, a window into a secret world. You can watch a hermit crab scuttling across the sand, trying on a new shell. You can see small fish darting in the shadows. It is a world you can observe from above, a giant looking down at a tiny civilization. The tide pool represents the resilience of life in the margins, thriving in the space between the wet and the dry, waiting patiently for the return of the Mother Ocean to wash over them and renew their world. Finally, we pull back to see the platform upon which all these coastal wonders rest, the continental shelf. The continents do not end at the beach. They extend out under the water, forming a shallow submerged rim. This is the sunlit shelf of the world. Visualize the colour of the water here. It is not the ink black of the deep ocean, but a glowing aquamarine, a light happy blue. The sun can reach the bottom here, which is why life thrives. This is the playground of the dolphins, the garden of the reefs, the fishing grounds of the whales. Imagine swimming toward the edge of this shelf. The seafloor beneath you is white sand rippled by the waves. The water is warm, and then, ahead, the blue turns dark. The floor drops away. This is the shelf break, the cliff where the continent ends and the deep ocean begins. It is a transition from the known to the unknown, from the light to the dark. But there is no fear here, only a sense of awe at the scale of the architecture. The shelf is the porch of the land, a shallow, warm welcome mat that surrounds the nations, a shared space of light and life before the plunge into the mysteries of the abyss. It is the solid, submerged footing that holds the coastlines, a reminder that the land supports us even where we cannot see it, stretching out its hand beneath the waves. And as we hover at the edge of this sunlit shelf, where the light plays on the white sand and the water feels like a warm embrace, we look outward. The turquoise blue deepens, shifting into a rich, royal navy, and then into a mysterious, inviting black. We have reached the continental slope. This is the great slide of the world. Imagine standing at the top of a hill that is miles high, but submerged in silence. The ground beneath you angles sharply downward, plunging from the shallow coasts into the true depths of the ocean. Visualize this descent. It is not a cliff, but a majestic, sloping ramp of sediment, carved by ancient underwater avalanches and slow-moving rivers of sand. As you drift down this slope in your mind's eye, the light of the sun begins to fade. You are leaving the world of the day and entering the world of eternal twilight. The colours change. The red light is absorbed first, then the yellow, leaving only the deepest, purest blues. It is a gradient of tranquility, a visual quieting of the senses. The slope is the transition zone, the bridge between the frantic energy of the land and the slow, heavy timelessness of the abyss. It is a place of letting go, of sliding effortlessly deeper into the comfort of the dark, pulled gently by gravity toward the centre of the ocean's peace. At the bottom of this long, dark slide, the ground levels out into the vastest landscape on Earth, the abyssal plain. This is the true floor of the world. Visualize a flat, featureless expanse of mud and fine sediment stretching for thousands of miles in every direction. It covers more than 50% of the planet's surface, yet few have ever seen it. It is the definition of stillness. The sediment here is soft, thick, and silky, composed of the dust of aeons. If you were to touch it, your hand would sink into a cool velvet dough. There are no seasons here. There is no sunlight. The temperature hovers just above freezing, stable and unchanging. This stability is a form of deep comfort. While the surface world is whipped by storms and scorched by the sun, the abyssal plain remains in a state of permanent quiet equilibrium. It is the library of the Earth. The mud layers here record the history of the climate, the magnetic shifts, and the meteor strikes, all preserved in the dark, undisturbed silence. To rest your mind on the abyssal plain is to rest on a foundation that has not moved or changed for millions of years, a flat, endless horizon of calm. Drifting down through the darkness to settle upon this soft floor is a ceaseless, gentle weather phenomenon known as marine snow. The deep ocean is not empty. It is filled with falling stars of organic matter. Visualize millions of white flakes, remnants of plankton, dust and sand, drifting slowly downward from the sunlit surface miles above. It falls in slow motion, taking weeks to reach the bottom. It looks like a heavy winter snowfall on a quiet night, a blizzard of nutrients that feeds the deep. This snow is the link between the sun and the dark. It brings life to the barren plains. Imagine the silence of this falling snow. There is no wind to blow it sideways. It falls straight down in long vertical lines. It creates a sense of connection, a vertical thread tying the high energy of the waves to the low energy of the deep. It is a continuous gift, a manna from heaven that sustains the creatures of the dark, covering the sea floor in a light, fluffy blanket of sustenance, softening the contours of the rock, burying the past in a layer of white, nutritive silence. Rising out of these flat, snowy plains are the sleeping giants of the deep, the seamounts. These are underwater mountains, extinct volcanoes that did not grow tall enough to break the surface of the ocean. They stand in the darkness, towering thousands of feet high, invisible to the sailors above. Visualize a lonely peak rising from the abyss. While the surrounding mud is flat and empty, the slopes of the seamount are teeming with life. The current hits the mountain and rushes upward, carrying nutrients that feed deep sea corals and sponges. These mountains are oases in the desert of the deep. They are covered in forests of bamboo coral and fans of red gorgonians waving in the pitch-black current. Because they are isolated, separated by miles of deep water, each seamount is often home to species found nowhere else. They are secret gardens, hidden peaks where life gathers in the dark to feast on the flow of the water. They represent hidden strength, the ability to stand tall and create a sanctuary even in the most crushing depths, providing a home for the wanderers of the dark. Connecting these seamounts, winding around the globe like the seam on a baseball, is the mid-ocean ridge. This is the longest mountain range on Earth, spanning 40,000 miles, yet it lies almost entirely underwater. This is the birthplace of the planet's crust. Visualize a crack in the ocean floor where the Earth is pulling apart. Deep, glowing red magma rises slowly from the mantle to fill the gap. As it touches the freezing seawater, it cools instantly, turning into black basalt rock. This is the youngest ground on Earth. It is being made right now, inch by inch, pushing the old continents apart. The shapes formed here are pillow lavas, rounded, bulbous rocks that look like stone cushions or loaves of black bread. Despite the fire and the heat, the process is incredibly slow and silent. It is creation at a geological pace. The ridge is a reminder that the Earth is always renewing itself, always growing. The floor you stand on is not static. It is part of a slow-moving conveyor belt that recycles the world. There is a warmth here, a geothermal heat that seeps into the water, a faint heartbeat of fire that proves the planet is alive and active, constantly knitting itself a new skin in the privacy of the deep ocean. The water that flows over these ridges and plains is not all the same. It is layered, separated by invisible barriers. One of the most powerful of these is the thermocline. This is the blanket that divides the warm, sunlit surface water from the cold, dark, deep water. Visualize floating in the ocean and diving down. At first, the water is warm, heated by the sun, but then you hit a layer where the temperature drops rapidly. It is a sudden, sharp transition. This barrier is a physical roof for the deep ocean and a floor for the surface world. It prevents the water from mixing too easily. Because of the thermocline, sound behaves differently. Sound waves can get trapped in these layers, travelling for thousands of miles without losing energy. This is the SOFAR channel. A whale can sing a song off the coast of Ireland, and another whale can hear it in the Caribbean. Imagine the ocean as a giant room of acoustics, where whispers can travel across the globe. It is a connected world. The thermocline holds the heat of the planet near the surface, regulating the climate, wrapping the Earth in a layer of warmth while keeping the deep reserves cool and preserved. A perfect thermal balance maintained by physics and water. Within these vast layers of water, driven by the turning of the earth and the wind, rotate the great gyres. These are massive circular systems of currents, swirling slowly in the middle of the major oceans. Visualize the North Atlantic Gyre or the Pacific Gyre. They are the flywheels of the sea. The water moves in a lazy clockwise rotation in the northern hemisphere, a giant slow whirlpool that spans thousands of miles. In the center of these gyres, the water is incredibly calm and still. The energy is on the edges. The center is the eye of the storm. This rotation traps debris, seaweed, and life, holding it in the middle. It is a planetary hug, gathering everything in toward the center. These gyres circulate the heat, moving warm water to the poles and cold water to the equator. They are the engines of the climate, spinning silently and relentlessly. To think of a gyre is to think of a slow, majestic dance. A waltz of water that takes years to complete one revolution. A cycle that ensures that nothing in the ocean is ever truly stagnant, but always part of a grand, circular journey. Drifting in the calm center of the North Atlantic Gyre is a sea without shores, the Sargasso Sea. This is the only sea on Earth that is not defined by land but by currents. It is a floating golden forest. Visualize vast mats of sargassum seaweed drifting on the surface of the deep blue water. The seaweed is a rich golden brown colour, filled with tiny air-filled berries that keep it afloat. It looks like a prairie of gold resting on an ocean of indigo. This floating mat is a nursery. Tiny turtles, seahorses and crabs, all camouflaged to match the gold weed, hide here. The water of the Sargasso Sea is exceptionally clear and deep blue, often described as the clearest water in the world. Because the currents rotate around it, the water inside is isolated and still. It is a place of profound silence and high visibility. Light penetrates deeper here than almost anywhere else. It is a sanctuary in the open ocean, a raft of life that offers shelter to the weary traveller. It feels timeless, a golden meadow that has been drifting in circles for millions of years, a place where the ocean creates its own land out of plants and patience. But the ocean does not just rotate, it also breathes vertically. This brings us to the phenomenon of upwelling. Along the western coasts of continents, the wind pushes the surface water away to sea. To replace it, cold, nutrient-rich water rises from the deep. Visualize this slow elevator of water. The deep water, dark and heavy with the decay of the marine snow, is drawn up toward the sunlight. As it hits the sun, it explodes with life. The microscopic plankton bloom, turning the water a rich, cloudy green. This is the most fertile water on Earth. Upwelling is a renewal. It brings the old, recycled nutrients back to the surface to begin the cycle of life again. It is a cooling influence. When you dip your toes in the ocean in California or Peru and feel that bone-chilling cold, you are feeling water that has just arrived from the bottom of the sea. It is clean, ancient, and packed with potential. It reminds us that growth requires digging deep, that we must sometimes reach down into our reserves and bring them to the light to fuel a new season of abundance. And feeding on this abundance, engaging in the largest migration on the planet every single night, is the zooplankton. These are the tiny animals, crustaceans, jellies and larvae that drift in the ocean. During the day, they hide in the deep, dark water to avoid predators, but as the sun sets, they rise. Visualize a massive, invisible cloud of billions of tiny creatures swimming upward. It is a vertical wave of life. They travel hundreds of meters, a journey that, for their size, is like a human walking 20 miles every evening. They feast on the algae at the surface under the cover of darkness. As the sun begins to rise, they turn and sink back down into the gloom. This rhythm is the heartbeat of the ocean. It happens every day, all over the world, a synchronized movement of biomass that mixes the ocean's layers. It is a silent, nightly commute. Imagine being part of that swarm, weightless, guided only by the light of the moon and the stars, rising to feed and descending to rest. It is a cycle of safety and nourishment, a reminder that there is a time to be visible and a time to be hidden. a rhythm of rising and falling that keeps the ocean ecosystem in perfect balance. And as the zooplankton descend into the protective gloom, completing their silent nightly rhythm, our mind's eye travels even deeper, past the midwater, past the abyssal plains, to the jagged seams where the Earth's crust pulls apart. Here, in the absolute midnight of the ocean floor, we find the chimneys of the deep, the hydrothermal vents. Visualize a landscape of towering spires made of minerals, rising from the seafloor like Gothic cathedrals in the dark. From their tops they billow thick, dark clouds, not of smoke, but of superheated water. This water has travelled deep into the Earth's crust, touched the magma, and shot back up, laden with precious metals and minerals. It is a font of heat in a freezing world. Picture the water shimmering as it exits the vent. It is nearly 400 degrees, yet the immense pressure of the ocean keeps it from boiling. It exits in a silent, turbulent plume. The meeting of the scalding vent water and the freezing ocean water causes the minerals to precipitate out instantly, building the chimney layer by layer. It is a slow, architectural construction performed by chemistry. To be near a vent is to be near the hearth of the planet. It is a reminder that the Earth generates its own warmth, that it is not dependent solely on the sun, but holds a fiery, beating heart deep within its chest that keeps the circulation of the world moving, even in the coldest, darkest corners. Clustered around these pillars of heat, basking in the warmth like pilgrims around a fire, are the giant tube worms. These are the strangest and most peaceful gardeners of the deep. Visualize a white tube-like stalk, growing up to 8 feet tall, rooted firmly to the rock. At the tip of each tube blooms a magnificent bright red plume. This plume is not a flower. It is a gill, filled with blood, breathing in the chemical-rich water. The colour is a shocking vibrancy in a world without light, a deep, lipstick red. These creatures have no mouths, no stomachs, and no eyes. They do not hunt, they simply exist. They rely entirely on bacteria living inside them to turn the chemicals into food. Imagine a field of these white stalks with their red tips swaying gently in the currents of the hot water. They are a symbol of absolute reliance and symbiosis. They do not fight for survival, they cooperate. They stand in dense thickets, supporting one another, creating a forest of life where there should be none. Watching them sway is hypnotic, a slow-motion dance of static life, anchored in the dark, fed by the earth, living proof that life can flourish by simply standing still and accepting the gifts that flow from the ground. This ability to live without sunlight brings us to the concept of chemosynthesis. For eons we believed that all life required the sun, but the deep ocean taught us otherwise. Here, life is powered by the Earth itself. Visualize the energy transfer. Instead of photons from the sun, the bacteria use hydrogen sulfide, the smell of eggs, or brimstone, to create sugar. It is alchemy. They take what is toxic to surface life and turn it into sustenance. This is a profound shift in perspective. It means the Earth is a self-sustaining battery. Even if the sun were to go out, life here would continue huddled around the vents, fueled by the planetary heat. There is a quiet independence in this. It suggests that life is more stubborn and creative than we imagine. It finds a way, it adapts, it turns poison into food. To meditate on chemosynthesis is to meditate on inner strength, on the ability to find energy from within when the external light is gone, generating your own vitality from the deep, hidden resources of your own nature. Beneath these vents, beneath the crust itself, lies the engine that drives it all, the mantle. We drift now from the water into the rock, descending 20 miles down to enter the largest layer of the Earth. The mantle is a vast ocean of rock, but it is not liquid like water, nor solid like granite. It is something in between. Visualize a substance like thick, hot toffee or softening wax. It is solid rock that flows. Over millions of years, under immense heat and pressure, the rock churns in slow-motion currents. This is the plasticity of the Earth. It creates a sensation of deep, heavy movement. The mantle is green. It is rich in a mineral called olivine, shining with a deep peridot hue. Imagine a sea of glowing green rock, moving with the pace of a glacier, carrying the heat from the core up to the crust. This movement is what pushes the continents around. It is the invisible current beneath the floor of the world. To think of the mantle is to think of patience on a geologic scale. It is a reminder that even the things that seem most rigid, like rock, can flow if given enough heat and time. It is the slow, fluid subconscious of the planet, shifting and shaping the surface reality without ever being seen. Within this slowly churning mantle, the driving force is the convection current. This is the same principle that makes a lava lamp mesmerizing. Heat rises, cold sinks. Visualize the great loops of heat rising from the core. Vast plumes of hot rock ascend slowly toward the surface, spreading out, cooling, and then sinking back down into the depths to be reheated. It is a rhythmic breathing, a circulation of stone. These currents are the hands that move the tectonic plates. They are the reason South America and Africa drifted apart. They are the reason the Atlantic Ocean is widening. It is a planetary massage, a constant kneading of the crust. There is a comfort in this cycle. It is not chaotic, it is orderly. It follows the laws of physics perfectly. It ensures that the Earth is not stagnant, that it is constantly recycling its material, bringing fresh heat to the surface and taking old, cold rock back down to be renewed. It is a heartbeat that beats once every few 100 million years, a rhythm so slow it feels like stillness, yet it moves the world. And where the cold rock sinks back down, we find the process of subduction. This is the Earth hugging itself. When a tectonic plate of the ocean floor becomes old, cold, and dense, it meets a continent and slides gracefully underneath it. Visualize the ocean floor curving downward, diving back into the hot mantle. It is not a violent crash, but a slow, inevitable descent. As the rock dives, it warms up, releasing water and minerals, melting back into the soup of the planet. This is the ultimate recycling system. The Earth does not waste anything. The floor you stood on millions of years ago is now becoming magma, waiting to rise again as a new volcano. It is a circle of return. Subduction zones are often marked by deep ocean trenches, the scars of this re-entry. But view them not as scars, but as seams where the old is folded back in to become new. It is a gesture of reintegration, a lesson that nothing lasts forever in one form, but nothing is ever truly lost. It simply returns to the source to be forged again. As the rock dives and creates immense pressure, or when mountains are squeezed together, the stone itself undergoes a magical transformation known as metamorphism. This is the art of changing without breaking. Visualize a block of granite or limestone deep underground. The pressure from above is unimaginable and the heat is rising. The rock does not melt. Instead, it softens just enough to rearrange itself. The crystals align. The texture changes. It becomes denser, harder, more beautiful. This is how we get the gneiss and schist rocks, the ones with beautiful wavy bands of minerals. It is rock that has been folded like dough. Visualize the layers of colour, black, white, pink, swirling together in intricate patterns. This banding tells the story of the stress the rock endured, but the stress made it beautiful. It created a pattern that did not exist before. Metamorphism teaches us that pressure is a creative force. It compacts us, refines us, and turns the raw material of our lives into something solid, structured, and capable of enduring the ages. One of the most serene children of this metamorphic process is marble. Once it was rough, gritty limestone made from the shells of ancient sea creatures, but after eons of heat and pressure, it has been purified into a stone of light. Visualize a quarry of white Carrara marble. The stone glows. It is translucent. Light can penetrate a fraction of an inch into the surface before bouncing back, giving it a soft, waxy luster that mimics human skin. This is why sculptors love it. It feels soft to the eye. Touch a slab of polished marble in your mind. It is cool, smooth, and heavy. Run your fingers over the grey veins that wander through the white field like smoke or frozen lightning. These impurities are what give the stone its character. No two pieces are alike. Marble is the definition of elegance. It is strong, yet it looks soft. It is a stone that has been cooked to perfection. To lie on a floor of cool marble on a hot day is to feel the grounding, cooling energy of the earth. A stable, smooth surface that invites you to lay down your worries and rest on its refined strength. Another child of pressure, but with a very different personality, is slate. This was once soft mud and clay at the bottom of a quiet river. Metamorphism pressed it so hard that it became stone, but it kept the memory of the layers. Visualize a piece of dark grey or blue slate. It is flat and smooth. If you tap it, it has a high, clear ring. Its defining feature is that it splits into perfect thin sheets. It is a stone of pages. Think of a slate roof in the rain. The water hits the stone with a distinct sharp pat, pat, pat. It is a sound of protection. Slate is impermeable. It shields the home from the weather. It is also the stone of learning, the blackboard, the writing tablet. It is a surface waiting for a message. There is a humility to slate. It is not flashy like diamond or gold. It is functional, protective, and dark. It represents the ability to create layers, to compartmentalize, to take the chaotic mud of life and press it into something structured, thin, and useful, a shelter against the storm. And finally, if the pressure continues, if the carbon in that ancient mud is squeezed with the weight of a world, it transforms into graphite. This is a paradox of geology. It is made of the same atoms as diamond, yet it is one of the softest solids known. Visualize a piece of raw graphite. It is metallic grey, greasy to the touch, and slippery. The atoms are arranged in sheets that slide over each other effortlessly. This is the lead in your pencil. When you write, you're leaving a trail of the Earth's carbon on the paper. You're unspooling a history of ancient life that was buried, heated, and pressed until it became a tool for communication. Graphite is a lubricant. It reduces friction. It eases the movement of machinery. It is the stone of flow. It teaches us that strength doesn't always mean hardness. Sometimes, to endure, you must be soft. You must be able to slide, to leave a mark without scratching the surface, to be the medium through which thoughts flow. It is the gentle brother of the diamond, content to be soft, dark, and useful, resting quietly in the wooden casing of a pencil or the deep veins of the crust. And just as the soft, dark graphite allows for the flow of expression, the Earth takes that very same element, carbon, and subjects it to a different, more intense destiny. Deep in the crushing embrace of the mantle, far below the reach of any mine, the carbon is squeezed with such incomprehensible force that its atoms lock together in a grip that cannot be broken. We drift now to the concept of the diamond. Visualize this transformation in the dark. The soft, slippery layers of graphite are compressed until they become the hardest substance in the natural world. A diamond is a monument to stress. It is born from the absolute weight of the world pressing down, a lesson that from the greatest pressure comes the greatest clarity. When these crystals finally rise to the surface, carried by violent volcanic elevators, they bring with them the light of the deep. Hold a rough, uncut diamond in your mind. It does not look like the polished gems in a store. It looks like a piece of frozen fire, a pebble of ice that refuses to melt. Its defining trait is not just its hardness, but its relationship with light. It slows light down. When a ray of sun enters the stone, it is bent, refracted, and split into a rainbow of spectral colours. It captures the fleeting light and holds it. bouncing it around inside before releasing it as a flash of brilliance. To look into a diamond is to look into a cage for light, a cold, clear chamber where the sun is trapped in a permanent dance of sparkle, a testament to the beauty that can emerge when the earth holds on tight. But not all gems are born of cold stone and fire. Some are born of life and warmth. We shift our gaze from the hard mineral to the soft golden glow of amber. This is a gem that was once a liquid. Visualize an ancient forest, millions of years ago. The great pine trees, heated by a prehistoric sun, weep thick, sticky tears of resin. This resin is golden and fragrant, smelling of pine needles and sunlight. As it trickles down the bark, it traps small moments of time. A tiny gnat, a seed, a bubble of air. It flows into the soil, and over millions of years the weight of the earth hardens it, turning the honey-like sap into stone. Amber is the only gem that feels warm to the touch. If you rub it, it generates a static charge, a tiny spark of life. It holds the colour of a sunset that happened 50 million years ago. Looking into a piece of amber is like looking through a window into the deep past. The insect trapped inside is suspended in a golden stasis, perfect and untouched. A sleeping traveller caught in a time machine made of tree sap. It is a gentle, organic jewel, a solidified drop of ancient sunlight that you can hold in your hand, connecting you to the warmth of a forgotten summer. Sometimes, it is not just the sap that is preserved, but the entire tree. We walk now into the silent stone forest of petrified wood. This is a transformation of patience. Imagine a tree falling into a river rich with minerals. Buried in the mud, cut off from the air, the wood does not rot. Instead, slowly, cell by cell, the organic material is replaced by silica, by quartz, by agate. The tree turns to stone, but it keeps the ghost of its former self. Visualize a log lying in the desert. It looks like wood. You can see the rough texture of the bark, the knots, the splinters, but when you touch it, it is cold, hard rock. It is a sculpture made by nature, a perfect replica. Inside, the colours are breathtaking. The minerals paint the wood in rings of red, rust, black and white. It is a rainbow trapped in the shape of a log. This petrification process takes millions of years. It is a slow-motion magic trick, turning the ephemeral life of a plant into the eternal endurance of a mineral. It teaches us that form can remain even when the substance changes, that the memory of the tree is strong enough to dictate the shape of the stone, standing immortal in the quiet desert long after the forest has turned to dust. And if we were to look inside that tree before it turned to stone, we would find the Earth's natural calendar, the tree rings. Every year, a tree adds a new layer to its girth, a circle of growth. In the spring, the wood is light and fast-growing. In the late summer, it is dark and dense. This alternating pattern creates the rings. Visualize the cross-section of a great oak or a giant sequoia. It is a target of time. You can trace the years back with your finger. Here is a wide ring, a year of heavy rain and abundant sun. Here is a thin, dark line, a year of drought and struggle. The tree records everything. It is a witness. Dendrochronology is the reading of these wooden manuscripts. A tree does not just grow, it remembers. It locks the climate of the past into its very body. To look at the rings is to see the rhythm of the seasons rippling outward from the centre. The heartwood, the oldest part of the tree, is dead and solid, providing the spine that holds the tree up, while the sapwood on the outside is alive and flowing. It is a beautiful metaphor for growth. We build upon our past selves, wrapping layer upon layer of experience around our core, expanding our circumference year by year, becoming wider, stronger, and more complex. This immense growth, however, begins with something incredibly small and dormant: the seed. Let us focus on the miracle of potential contained within a shell. Visualize an acorn lying on the forest floor, or a winged maple seed resting on the grass. To the eye, it looks like a pebble, an inert object. But inside there is a tiny sleeping blueprint. A seed is a time capsule of life. It can wait. Some seeds have been found in ancient granaries thousands of years old, and when planted they still sprouted. They are masters of suspended animation. Inside the hard coat, the embryo waits for the perfect combination of water, warmth, and soil. It does not rush. It knows that to sprout too early is to die in the frost. There is a deep, quiet wisdom in a seed. It holds the entire shape of the massive tree, the roots, the trunk, the thousands of leaves, folded up in the dark. It is pure potential energy. Visualize the moment of awakening, the germination. The shell cracks, and a tiny pale root drives downward, anchoring itself before it ever thinks of reaching up. It is the ultimate act of faith, a small, blind dive into the earth, trusting that the soil will hold it, trusting that the sun is waiting above, a tiny spark of life deciding that it is finally time to begin. This ability to sleep through the harsh times is not limited to plants. In the animal kingdom, the earth commands a deep restorative rest known as hibernation. As the winter snows begin to fall and the wind turns biting cold, the world slows down. Visualize a bear curling up in a den lined with dry leaves and moss, or a tiny dormouse tucking its tail around its nose in a burrow. This is not just sleep, it is a physiological surrender. The heart rate drops from a rapid beat to a slow, rhythmic thud, barely perceptible. The body temperature lowers, matching the cool of the earth. The breathing slows to a whisper. The animal enters a state of torpor, hovering on the edge of life. They do not eat, they do not drink. They live off the reserves they built during the abundance of summer. It is a lesson in conservation. The earth grants them permission to opt out of the struggle, to withdraw into the dark and wait for better days. Imagine the coziness of that den, the absolute safety of being tucked away while the blizzard rages outside. It is a deep, healing coma, a resetting of the biological clock, proving that rest is not a sign of weakness, but a survival strategy, a way to endure the winter by becoming as still as the stone. While some sleep, others choose to move. We drift to the great flow of migration. Across the planet, millions of creatures are engaged in a silent, determined journey. They are following the sun. Visualize the monarch butterflies, delicate wings of orange and black, floating like confetti in the air. They travel thousands of miles from Canada to the forests of Mexico, navigating to a specific grove of trees they have never seen, guided by an ancestral map written in their genes. Or picture the Arctic tern, a white bird that sees more daylight than any other creature, flying from the top of the world to the bottom and back again every year. This movement is not frantic, it is rhythmic. It is a flow of biomass across the continents. The animals are pulled by the Earth's magnetic field, by the stars, by the smell of the wind. They are surfing the planetary currents. To watch a flock of geese flying in a V formation is to see aerodynamics in action, each bird drafting off the one in front, sharing the burden of the journey. It is a reminder that we're not stuck in one place. If the environment becomes harsh, the Earth provides a path to a new home. We can move, we can flow, carried by the instinct that tells us where the warmth is waiting. Helping these travellers on their way are the invisible rivers of the sky, the jet streams. High above the clouds, miles above the ground, there are bands of fast-moving air that circle the globe. They are the highways of the atmosphere. Visualize a ribbon of wind, hundreds of miles wide, flowing from west to east at speeds that can surpass a race car. You cannot see it, but you can feel its influence. It steers the storms. It guides the weather systems. Pilots ride these streams to save fuel, surfing the air to arrive sooner. The jet stream is the boundary between the cold polar air and the warm tropical air. It is a serpent of wind that undulates and waves, meandering like a river. In the silence of the upper atmosphere, this wind does not roar. It simply flows with a massive silent power. It wraps the planet in a swirling embrace, mixing the air, distributing the heat. It is a reminder that even the air has a structure, a path, a reliable current that flows endlessly above our heads, connecting the weather of one continent to the weather of another in a continuous loop of breath. Drifting even higher, above the jet stream, we reach the realm of the cirrus clouds. These are the highest clouds in the sky, existing where the air is thin and freezing. They are not made of water droplets like the puffy cumulus clouds below. They are made of pure ice crystals. Visualize them painted against a deep indigo blue sky. They look like white feathers, or wisps of hair, or the strokes of a dry paintbrush. Sailors call them mare's tails because of their sweeping curved shapes. They are delicate and translucent. The sun shines right through them, often creating halos or sundogs, rainbow rings around the sun. Cirrus clouds do not bring rain. They're too high, too cold. They are the decoration of the stratosphere. They drift slowly, detached from the weather on the ground. Because they are made of ice, they fall, but they fall incredibly slowly, sublimating back into vapour before they ever reach the lower sky. To look at a cirrus cloud is to look at the edge of the atmosphere, where the moisture of the earth is turning into diamond dust, floating in the quiet, frozen heights of the sky. Finally, the air grows so thin that it ceases to behave like a gas. We have reached the exosphere, the outer skin of the planet. This is the final transition, the fading boundary where the Earth dissolves into space. There is no sharp line where the atmosphere ends. It simply unravels, molecule by molecule, into the void. Visualize this silence. The sky is no longer blue. It is the black of the cosmos, studded with the unblinking eyes of the stars. The atoms of air here, hydrogen and helium, are miles apart. They drift freely, rarely bumping into one another. Some of them escape the pull of gravity entirely, drifting off to become part of the solar wind. This is the breathing out of the planet into the universe. It is a place of absolute stillness. The weather is gone. The sound is gone. There is only the vast open emptiness and the curve of the blue world far below. It is a space of infinite peace, the threshold between the home we know and the infinite mystery of the galaxy. It is the ultimate release, where the heavy blanket of air thins out into a gossamer veil and finally into nothingness, leaving us floating in the gentle, weightless suspension of the stars. And floating there, suspended in the velvet silence of the void, looking back at the glowing blue sphere from the edge of nothingness, we arrive at the final, most profound truth of all. It is the secret that astronauts whisper about when they return, the realization known as the overview effect. From this distance, looking at the marble of blue oceans, white clouds, and green lands, a singular, undeniable fact becomes clear. There are no lines. The borders we draw on maps, the divisions between nations, the separation between the land and the sea, or the rock and the life, they are all illusions of proximity. When you see the Earth as a whole, you understand that it is not a collection of separate things, rocks, water, trees, people, but rather a single, continuous, living organism. It is one system. The cloud becomes the rain becomes the river becomes the ocean becomes the cloud, the rock becomes the soil becomes the plant becomes the animal becomes the earth again. But the secret goes deeper. As you gaze at that lonely, beautiful jewel in the dark, you realize that you're not merely an observer floating outside of it. You are it. Every atom in your body was once part of the stone, the air, the water, or the star stuff that formed the crust. The iron in your blood is the same iron that sleeps in the magnetic core. The water in your cells is the same water that drifts in the clouds. The calcium in your bones is the same calcium that builds the white cliffs and the seashells. You're not on the Earth. You're of the Earth. You're the planet's way of looking at itself. You are the consciousness of the rock, the voice of the water, the dream of the dust. This final realization is the ultimate comfort. You belong here completely. You're not a stranger wandering a strange land. You're the land itself, woken up for a brief, beautiful moment to witness your own magnificence. You are the earth, and the earth is you, held safely in the infinite embrace of the cosmos. And now, slowly, gently, let that vast cosmic perspective drift away. Let the image of the blue marble fade into a soft, comforting blur. We begin our final descent, not through the atmosphere of the planet, but into the atmosphere of your own deep rest. Feel your awareness shrinking down, coming back from the stars, back from the mountains and the oceans, back from the forests and the caves, returning to the quiet, warm center of your own body. Feel the gravity of the earth claiming you once more. It is not a heavy weight, but a grounding anchor, a gentle hand pressing you down into the mattress. The journey is complete. We have travelled from the fiery core to the frozen poles, from the deepest trench to the highest cloud, and now all those landscapes are settling within you. The mountains are your stillness, the rivers are your blood, the forests are your breath, the night sky is your mind. Everything is slowing down. The spinning of the planet feels like a rocking cradle. The rhythm of the tides matches the slow, heavy rise and fall of your chest. There is nothing left to learn tonight. There is nothing left to see. There is only the feeling of being held, supported by billions of years of history, cradled by the rock and the soil that has endured everything so that you could be here, warm and safe in this moment. Let your eyes drift closed if they haven't already. Let the darkness behind your eyelids become a soft, warm blanket. Your legs are heavy, sinking into the bed. Your arms are heavy, loose and relaxed. Your jaw is soft. The space between your eyebrows is smooth. The silence of the deep ocean is filling the room. The quiet of the winter snow is covering your thoughts. The stillness of the stone is entering your bones. You're safe. You are home. You are part of the great, slow, eternal story of the world. Let go of the words. Let go of the images. Let yourself drift on the dark, calm waters of sleep. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.